Chapter 651. Tianan Lin City, Yi family. Under the strange night sky, Yi Hai, Yang Tian, and the rest were shocked to discover that the unconscious Qianshan's body was constantly emitting a faint golden radiance that faced the blood moon in the sky. The wisps of golden radiance were like divine radiance. It was vast, heavy, simple, dignified. At the next moment, then an even stranger scene appeared. A ray of golden light pierced through the sky, and the clouds churned. A red sun slowly appeared in the sky. The red sun was like a vermilion bird, flapping its wings to disperse the endless darkness. At that moment, be it Yi Hai and the rest, or everyone in the world, they all saw a scene that they would never forget for the rest of their lives. The sun and moon appeared together, and the sky shook. At that moment, the mysterious Kunlun was shaken. Countless powerhouses looked out of Kunlun and stared at the red sun. He's here. The child from 50 years ago has finally appeared. In Shang Santian, a scarlet-robed man stood with his hands behind his back, looking up at the night sky. Behind him, countless figures with terrifying auras knelt on one knee. Their expressions were extremely respectful, as if they were waiting for some order. The scarlet-robed man's gaze flickered, and he was a little excited. Pass down my order. Tell Xiao Yuanjing to increase his efforts. We must find that child. The heavenly Tao has collapsed, the sun and moon are in the same sky, and the doomsday is over. The opportunity for Shang Santian to return to the human world has finally arrived. Everyone, get ready. This time, no one can stop the Xiao family from suppressing everything. Yes. A thunderous roar resounded through the void. In Kunlun, outside a Taoist temple that stood at the peak of a mountain, countless people were guarding the door quietly. Everyone looked inside the temple with grief on their faces. There were faint cries coming from inside. An old man in a Taoist robe sat cross-legged on a meditation cushion. The old man had a kind expression, but at that moment, his face was extremely pale. There was no trace of blood on his face, and his body was emitting an endless aura of death. 3 men and a woman knelt in front of him. Their faces were covered in tears, and their eyes were filled with reluctance as they looked at the old man. Foolish child, birth, old age, sickness, and death are things that have never changed since time immemorial. Master has reached the end of his lifespan, and it's difficult for him to escape the suffering of reincarnation. After Master dies, disband the Taoist temple and enter the world. Although the old man was about to die, his expression was calm. His gaze fell on the woman in the green palace dress. Qing you were the first to join my sect. When I'm not here, my 3 junior brothers will need you to control them. Master, don't die, okay? The girl named Qing nose turned sour, and tears began to flow down her face again. The old man shook his head slightly and looked up at the night sky above his head. There was a hint of guilt in his eyes as he said, "Unfortunately, I didn't manage to find senior brother even before I died, much less revive the great snow mountain." A look of determination flashed across his old face. "Fine, before I die, I will fight for a future for the descendants of the great snow mountain." His voice fell. A tortoise shell suddenly appeared in his hand. The tortoise shell was only the size of a palm, and it was engraved with obscure runes. The old man smashed the tortoise shell with one palm and took out 2 golden leaves that looked like cicada wings. He covered his eyes with the golden leaves and formed a seal with both hands. The next moment, 2 green rays of light burst out from his eyes. The rays of light seemed to pierce through time and space, trying to find something. Flames gradually emerged from the old man's body. The flames wrapped around him, and his body gradually began to disappear in the flames. Master! Seeing this scene, Qing and the 3 men kneeling on the ground cried bitterly. They knew what this scene meant. Just as the old man's body was about to completely disappear, he saw it. He saw a person in the vast chaos. A young man about 30 years old. The young man walked in the endless sea of thunder with his hands behind his back. With every step he took, The sea of thunder under his feet faintly trembled, as if it could not resist his majesty. Meanwhile, his body emitted a monstrous bloody glow and killing intent. Countless spirits struggled around him, crying and screaming. Those were the souls of those who died under his sword. The old man tried his best to widen his eyes, trying to see the young man clearly. At this moment, the young man seemed to have sensed it. He turned his head abruptly and shot a domineering gaze at the old man. The old man's heart trembled violently. That gaze almost scared him out of his wits. The old man's eyes were burning with pain. After screaming, he roared while his body was about to dissipate, "Ching-er, remember my words. After you enter the world, you must find a person with the surname Yi. He's the person that the great snow mountain has been waiting for." Human Emperor, as soon as he finished speaking, he had already turned into ashes. The 4 disciples kneeling on the ground cried in grief. The woman named Ching-er held back her grief and walked out of the Taoist temple. Looking at everyone guarding outside, a hint of determination appeared on her pretty face. "I now announce that the Taoist temple is disbanded. Junior brothers, follow me into the world. Tianan Lin City. It hurts, Qianqian, it hurts. Grandpa's son, big brother, big sister, Qianqian is in so much pain." Qianqian, who was lying on the sofa, could not stop twitching. As more and more golden divine radiance dissipated from her body, her aura became weaker and weaker. Yang Tian was sweating profusely. "What should we do? What should we do?" In order to wake Qianqian up, they used many methods, but it was useless. Qianqian seemed to be trapped in a nightmare. A young man walked in quickly and said to Lin Tai nervously, "Brother Leopard, this is bad. There are many people gathered outside." "What happened now?" Lin Tai's expression changed slightly. The young man looked at Qianqian, who was on the sofa, and said weakly, "The light emitted from her body is too dazzling. Everyone within a 5-kilometer radius saw it. They want to rush in no matter what." At that moment, an old figure entered the house. Yang Tian and Lin Tai were shocked. Just as they were about to attack, they realized that it was Niu Qingshan. "Old Niu, why are you here?" Yang Tian asked in confusion. "Such a huge commotion. Unless I'm blind," Niu Qingshan said with a solemn expression. Then, he walked to the sofa and looked at Qianqian, who was constantly emitting golden light. He frowned and said, "What's going on with her?" "We don't know either." Yi Hai smiled bitterly. Niu Qingshan's expression changed slightly. He seemed to have realized something and immediately said to the outside, "Old friend, quick, help me suppress the light on her body." A faint sigh was heard. Subsequently, a skinny old man slowly walked in. He first looked at the people in the room before his gaze finally landed on Qianqian. His gaze was complicated. "She's already been exposed. What's the point? Cut the crap. Hurry up!" Niu Qingshan shouted. "At the very least, you have to hold on until Yi returns. Otherwise, the entire Tianan will be razed to the ground. It's not like you don't know what those people are capable of." Chapter 652. The old man shook his head. "You can leave now. I know what to do." "All right, I'll protect you." Niu Qingshan nodded and gave Yi Hai, Yang Tian, and the rest a look. Everyone then walked out of the living room. Yi Hai looked at the living room worriedly and couldn't help but ask, "Senior Niu, what happened?" Until now, he was still confused. Not only him, even Yang Tian and the others were no exception. Meeting everyone's gaze, Niu Qingshan said profoundly, "You have to remember what I'm about to say. Nothing happened in the Yi clan tonight. You can just treat those lights as little brat Yi cultivating. Secondly, there's only one little girl in your family, and that's little brat Ye's daughter. There's no such person as Qianqian. You've never seen this person, nor do you know her." "Why?" Wulan didn't understand. Niu Qingshan let out a long sigh and said, "There's no why. If you don't want to cause trouble for Yi brat, just remember what I said." The Heavenly Palace's headquarters. Guan Shanhua looked at the young man kneeling before him and asked coldly, "Did you really see the Yi family's villa shine with golden light and that senior brother of mine entered the Yi family's villa?" "Palace Master, this subordinate dares to guarantee it with his life." That person hurriedly nodded. When Guan Shanhua heard that, countless rays of light flashed across his eyes. "It seems like the Yi family villa has a secret. Unfortunately, my senior brother is inside. It won't be easy for me to barge in, Helan Mountain, Ghost Witch Cult's ancestral court." While the outside world was shocked by the phenomenon in the sky, the entire Ghost Witch Cult's ancestral court was in the center of the storm. Monstrous energy filled the entire valley. The wind and clouds changed color as ghosts wailed and wolves howled. It was as if he had fallen into purgatory on earth. In the distance, Chana and the others looked at their surroundings in horror. They were so frightened that they didn't even have the strength to move, and their souls were almost scattered. "Master, this is bad. The 4-yin period has arrived." Insher's expression changed drastically as he looked at Yi Chen immediately. As soon as he was done speaking, Yiwen turned on her phone immediately and realized that it was the first day of October on the lunar calendar. Ah! The cult master of the Ghost Witch cult was shrouded in endless energy. He laughed maniacally. "Mad Southern Yi, do you think you've won just because you've almost destroyed my Ghost Witch cult and even severely injured me? Idiot! I'll tell you the truth. Everything I've done is to stall for time so that the 4-yin period will arrive. I want to save your woman, but it's too late. Everything is too late." As his voice fell, the blood moon in the night sky suddenly shot down a pillar of light that was as thick as a bowl. The pillar of light landed on a peak at the back mountain of the Ghost Witch cult's ancestral court. From afar, it looked like a giant pillar that connected heaven and earth. Boundless energy flowed along the pillar of light and converged at the top of the mountain. "Not good." Yi Chen's expression changed slightly. He was going to head to the peak in a flash. He had already guessed that Su Yuhan should be at the peak. "You want to save your woman? It won't be that easy." The cult master of the Ghost Witch cult sneered. A black talisman that shone with a dark light suddenly appeared in his hand. The black talisman emitted a chilling aura. "Fiend God Rebirth Talisman! Order!" The cult master of the Ghost Witch cult raised it into the air and formed a hand seal with both hands. He suddenly shouted, "Please lend me your strength, Sorcerer God!" Boom! A black fog dragon erupted from the peak of the mountain behind the Ghost Witch cult's ancestral court. There was a pair of green eyes in the black fog that fused with the Ghost Witch cult's body with a monstrous murderous aura. Upon seeing that, Insher and Chana were shocked. At the next moment, the cult master's body began to twitch violently. "Sorcerer God, what are you doing?" The cult master's face kept changing as if he was struggling. "What am I doing?" An extremely cold voice came from his body. "I'm taking your body, of course. You're no longer of any value to me." "Sorcerer God, no. I've always been loyal to you. Why are you doing this to me?" The cult master roared again. "Trash, you can't even deal with a martial artist. What's the point of keeping you? Don't worry. I'll remember everything you've done for me." As they fought for control of the body, the owner of the cold voice finally destroyed the Ghost Witch cult's cult master's consciousness and took complete control of his body. When he looked again, he was covered in a sinister aura, and his eyes flickered with an evil aura. Hee, it feels great to have a body. The series of changes happened extremely quickly. A gleam flashed through Yi Chen's eyes. "Are you the sorcerer god behind the Ghost Witch cult?" "Ghost Witch cult? Sorcerer god?" The cult master of the Ghost Witch cult, who had changed his soul, chuckled. "Only an ignorant person like you would believe in the sorcerer god? Moreover, the Ghost Witch cult is just a tool for me to descend into this world. I accidentally sent a trace of my divine consciousness into this world. After that trash caught it, he took the initiative to call me the sorcerer god. What a joke! You're the East Asia #1, mad Southern Yi, right? You're quite capable. No wonder that trash was no match for you. He squinted as he looked at Yi Chen and smiled proudly. Seeing that you're about to die by my hands, I can tell you my name. I'm the Hell Demon from the distant Longevity Heaven. Longevity Heaven? Yi Chen's eyes flickered. He had never heard of this realm before. His brows were filled with excitement. What makes me happy is that your woman actually has a mysterious body. She's the most suitable for possession. If you're willing to submit to me, I can spare your life and grant you great fortune. You're just a ghost cultivator's remnant soul. How dare you call yourself the sorcerer god? How dare you ask me to submit to you? Yi Chen smirked coldly. If you didn't provoke me, you could continue being the sorcerer god. However, you shouldn't have laid your eyes on my woman. Since you're unwilling to submit to me, go to hell. A ferocious look flashed in the eyes of the Hell Demon who had possessed the cult master. Then, he grabbed with his hand, and thousands of eerie black energy condensed in front of him. The black energy then turned into a black vortex. As he waved his sleeve, the gigantic black vortex began to spin at a high speed. It charged at Yi Chen with a destructive aura. Before the black vortex arrived, the monstrous vile energy had already corroded the ground. If a person were to come into contact with it, they would die instantly. Humph! Yi Chen scoffed coldly and slapped with his palm. Vast energy exploded from his palm. A shocking palm print suddenly condensed and appeared, tearing through the air as it attacked. Rumble, when their attacks collided, an extremely violent energy wave swept out. The entire Ghost Witch cult's ancestral court seemed to tremble at this moment. Chana and the rest, who were hiding far away, were thrown off their feet by the aftershock. The Hell Demon's mocking face gradually turned grim when he saw that Yi Chen took his attack easily. He was shocked. Isn't this brat an ancient martial artist? How can he take my vile true origin? Chapter 653. Your lowly mortal body has some secrets. When I capture you, I'll definitely study it properly. He squinted and looked at Yi Chen. The ferocity in his eyes grew. The next moment, Ghost God Finger. With a stern cry, he suddenly raised his hand, and the monstrous black gas was completely absorbed by the tip of his finger, causing his finger to immediately become pitch black. His fingertips trembled lightly. The air around him was completely torn apart. There was a faint sound of vibration in the air. Shio! A ray of black light that was as thick as an arm suddenly shot out from his fingertip. The black light streaked across the sky, and an extremely terrifying power erupted from it. Blade of Spiritual Sense. Yi Chen remained unmoved. His divine consciousness surged out of his mudball palace. As the space trembled slightly, a golden saber that was condensed from divine consciousness condensed on his body. As soon as the golden saber appeared, it erupted with a saber intent that could cut through the world and destroy all living things. Kill! Yi Chen scoffed as he faced the gigantic black finger that tore through the air. The golden saber that hovered before him spat out intense saber chi and slashed at it. Boom! The gigantic black finger was chopped off on the spot under the impact of the eruption of enormous energy. Yanemo let out a muffled groan and couldn't help but take a few steps back. His face was filled with shock. You! How can you have such a strong divine sense? After 2 consecutive exchanges, a storm was set off in his heart. Divine will. It was exclusive to cultivators. Especially for a ghost cultivator like him who specialized in spiritual power. However, when Yi Chen condensed the divine will blade, he was shocked to find that Yi Chen's divine will was much stronger than his. This Ye's methods aren't what you can imagine. Yi Chen smirked coldly and leaped into the air. He stood with his hands behind his back as he stood on the ground. He looked like a god that was looking down on all living beings. An incomparably domineering voice came from his mouth. Fire, come! As his voice fell, Inshur, Chana and the others saw a scene that they would never forget. Suddenly, dozens of fireballs appeared in the void. Each fireball was about the size of an adult's head and glowed with golden light. Even though they were far away, the heat they emitted made them sweat. Boom! Dozens of fireballs shot towards the Yama demon in a square formation. Fireball? The Yama demon's pupils constricted, as if he had seen a ghost. He let out an angry roar and a large amount of black fog erupted from his body. The black mist transformed into a black spear that pierced through the air to meet the dozens of fireballs. A series of explosions rang out in the air, and the black spear was shattered on the spot by the fireballs. The remaining fireballs immediately shot towards the Yama demons. Not good. Yen Mo's expression changed. His palm was wrapped in a dense black chi as he slapped towards the fireballs, as if he wanted to disperse them. However, what shocked him was that when his hand touched a fireball, the fireball seemed to be nourished by something and suddenly exploded. A stream of fire began to spread from his hand to his body. He glared at Yi Chen, who was in the air after putting out the fire with much difficulty. He was furious. Who exactly are you? Why did he use the fireball technique? Thunder! Yi Chen looked cold as he shot a 5 thunder talisman into the air. Boom! Suddenly, lightning appeared in the air. A bolt of lightning as thick as a baby's arm descended from the sky with a destructive aura, heavily striking the Yama demon. Lightning was an item of extreme yang, and it specialized in restraining evil. Not to mention a ghost cultivator like the Yama demon. I understand. The Yama demon finally thought of something and looked at Yi Chen all of a sudden. Why, you're a cultivator too. Why, you don't belong here. He didn't finish his sentence. The bolt of lightning immediately struck him. Following an incomparably shrill scream, the Yama demon's body was wrapped in lightning. He fell to the ground and struggled. After the miserable screams had died down, a charcoal-like corpse appeared on the ground. A few seconds later, Chana and the rest in the distance finally snapped back to their senses. They could not help but exclaim in shock, dead? Inshur was also dumbfounded. He knew how terrifying the Yama demon was. However, he was still killed by Yi Chen. This showed how terrifying his master's ability was. Is he a human or a god? Chana took a deep look at the figure in the air. Her rather ordinary facial features were filled with disdain and domineering, like a high and mighty god. After Yi Chen landed, Yiwen looked at the corpse on the ground with lingering fear. She mustered her courage and asked, "Brother, is he dead?" "Dead?" Yi Chen lifted his head and looked at the top of the mountain. "No, he's not dead. I just killed a clone of his." Yiwen and Inshur were shocked when they heard that. Just when they wanted to ask more questions, they saw Yi Chen move. He flew toward the top of the mountain like an arrow. At the same time, an extremely shrill scream came from a deep well filled with formations at the top of the mountain. Damn it, damn it. I actually encountered a cultivator who cultivates lightning techniques. An illusory black shadow stood beside a large red coffin. It was none other than the Yama demon from before. However, his body was a little dispirited at the moment. He looked at Suyuhan, who was lying quietly in the coffin, and spoke with lingering fear. Fortunately, it was only a clone that was killed. I originally planned to let this woman absorb enough Yin energy before possessing her, but it seems like I can't wait any longer. When the possession succeeds, that brat outside will be helpless. I'll find a place to hide and go into closed-door cultivation to recover for a year or so. It won't be too late to kill that brat then. Thinking to this point, he gritted his teeth and forcefully separated his purest soul. It turned into a ray of dark light and shot into Suyuhan's glabella. Possession. In Taoism, it was an act of borrowing someone else's body to return to life. Even in modern times, experts had said that the body was merely a spiritual shell and a residence. The reason why people died of old age was because their bodies were exhausted, and their bodies could no longer rely on their souls. If their souls did not die or their divine consciousness was not severed after death, they could continue living in another body. Of course, their personality and memories would change. To cultivators, possession was extremely normal. If their physical body was destroyed and their spiritual consciousness escaped, they could choose a body with spiritual roots and cultivation aptitude to possess it and cultivate again. The typical example was Iron Crutchley from the Eight Immortals crossing the sea. Iron Crutchley's original name was Li Xian. He was originally a gentle scholar. Due to the corruption in the imperial examination, Li Xian failed and was depressed. In a fit of anger, he went out to seek immortality and Tao. Later on, he learned Tao from the old man. One day, he saw immortal music in the sky and rays of light. It was the Grand Supreme Old Lord riding a green bull. Li Xian knelt down and begged the Old Lord for guidance. Thinking of his cultivation talent, the Old Lord agreed to bring Li Xian out on a trip and requested him to leave his body 10 days later to meet him. After Li Xian returned, he said to his disciple, Yang Zi, "I'll leave at the Grandmaster's invitation. My body will stay here. You guys have to take good care of it. If my soul doesn't return after 7 days, it'll be enough to prove that I've become an immortal. Then, you'll incinerate my body. 7 days is the deadline. Remember." With that said, Li Xian sat cross-legged and floated away with his soul. His disciple remembered his instructions and held on until midnight of the 6th day. He fell asleep due to exhaustion and dreamed that an old immortal told him that his mother was about to die and that he should quickly return to prepare for her funeral. After Yang Zi woke up, he missed his mother and wanted to go down the mountain. However, due to his master's instructions and the fact that the 7-day period was almost up, Yang Zi believed that Li Xian was dead. After hurriedly dealing with him, he went down the mountain to see his mother. When Li Xian's essence soul returned, he realized that his disciple had cremated him. He was unable to return to his body and his essence soul was about to dissipate. In his despair, he accidentally discovered a person who had just starved to death by the side of the road. He hurriedly entered the person's body. Unexpectedly, he realized that the person was crippled. As he wailed, the old lord appeared and said, "This is the will of the heavens. It cannot be defied." Furthermore, he brainwashed him and instilled the thoughts of the 8 immortals. Only then did Li Xian change his name to Iron Crutchley. As for the so-called will of the heavens, it was just a scheme and game between experts when the Hell Devil transformed into a dim light and entered the depths of Su Yuhan's sea of consciousness. Su Yuhan's eyes lit up. Amidst the chaos, he saw a faint green spot of light swimming aimlessly in his sea of consciousness like a firefly. Compared to the Yama demon's speck of light, the green speck of light was very small, as if it could be blown away by a gust of wind. "As long as I devour you, this body will be mine." The Yama devil transformed into a dim light and pounced towards the green light spot. The green light spot was startled and subconsciously dodged in the chaotic sea of consciousness. "Stop struggling and accept your fate." The Yama devil chased after it crazily. Seeing that the green light spot had nowhere to run, it pounced forward excitedly and was about to devour it when a golden ocean suddenly suppressed its entire consciousness. It was a drop of blood. Golden blood. Although it was only a drop, it was incomparably vast and boundless in the mysterious space of the sea of consciousness, just like a golden ocean. The drop of blood exuded a thick emperor's aura. It was like a glaring vajra that suppressed everything. The light spot that the Yama devil had transformed into was suppressed on the spot, unable to struggle. It was as if he had seen something shocking. Emperor's blood, it's actually Emperor's blood. Damn it, why does this woman have Emperor's blood in her body? However, what made him even more afraid was, the green light spot that had despaired was stunned. It actually pounced towards him in a daze and devoured him instead. "No, don't devour me. I can't accept it, I can't accept it." Chapter 654. Drip, drip, in the narrow and moist well, countless water droplets seeped out from the surrounding stone walls. Countless water droplets seeped out from the surrounding stone walls and dripped onto the ground at a fixed frequency like a pendulum clock. Soo-yuhan, who was sleeping soundly, felt a scorching breath on her face. It was hot and ticklish. Her beautiful brows trembled slightly as she woke up from her sleep. As soon as she woke up, she felt extremely dizzy and a faint stabbing pain. It was as if she had a serious illness. Her entire body was extremely weak, and she could not muster any strength at all. She felt like she had a long dream, but it was a nightmare. When she finally regained consciousness, she vaguely recalled the memory of being taken away by the ghost witch cult before she fainted. She jolted and was about to get up. "You're awake." An extremely gentle voice came from the side. Soo-yuhan looked over and saw a familiar face. It was this face that became the biggest shadow in her dream. She could not help but stand up in surprise. "Xiaochen?" Yi-Chen lifted the hair on her forehead and said softly, "How do you feel? Why are you here? And where am I?" Soo-yuhan looked around subconsciously and realized that she was lying in a big red coffin. She sat up in shock and threw herself into Yi-Chen's embrace. She said while trembling, What is this? It's just a coffin. It's fine." Yi-Chen patted her shoulder lightly and said in between tears and laughter, "Do you really not remember anything?" Soo-yuhan was slightly stunned when she heard that. She covered her forehead with her hand and pretended to be in deep thought. She frowned and said after a while, "I think I had a very long dream." "What did you dream about?" Yi-Chen said while smiling. Soo-yuhan bit her lip and said while still recovering from the shock, "I dreamed that I seemed to have turned into a ball of light. I was looking for you in a gray place. It was a huge place and I couldn't find you. Later on, a black ball of light kept chasing me." She gripped Yi-Chen's hand tightly by instinct as she spoke to this point. Her round body started shaking lightly. Clearly, the experience in the dream had shocked her. "And then?" Yi-Chen grabbed her hand tightly. "Then," Soo-yuhan inhaled sharply and tried her best to calm herself down. She said slowly, "I don't know why the black light couldn't move. I felt that it was very warm, so I walked over uncontrollably. Then I ate it." At the end of her sentence, her expression was a little strange. Yi-Chen chuckled softly and comforted her, "It's just a dream. Don't scare yourself." In reality, he had already arrived when the Hell Demon's primordial spirit had just entered Soo-yuhan's consciousness. However, he did not enter Soo-yuhan's consciousness recklessly to fight the Hell Demon. Instead, he chose to wait and see. After all, the sea of consciousness was the residence of a person's consciousness. If he entered Soo-yuhan's sea of consciousness without permission and had a conflict with the Hell Demon's primordial spirit, Soo-yuhan would be the one who would be injured. However, while the ending surprised him, it also didn't surprise him. Just when the Hell Demon was about to devour Soo-yuhan's primordial spirit, the Heavenly Emperor's blood essence that Yi-Chen had left in Soo-yuhan suppressed the Hell Demon's primordial spirit without hesitation. Never in his wildest dreams would the Yama Demon have imagined that he would end up like this. "That's not right." Soo-yuhan suddenly shook her head and lifted her eyes to look at him seriously. "It's not a dream. You must be hiding something from me because I feel like there are many things in my mind, like memories." She covered her forehead with her hand as if she was trying her best to recall and mumbled to herself, "Longevity Heaven, Ghost Spirit Sect, Enchantress Celestial Moon Technique." Yi-Chen looked at her quietly from the side without saying a word because he knew that Soo-yuhan would naturally accept the Hell Demon's memories after devouring the Hell Demon's soul. "Xiaochen," Soo-yuhan lifted her head and gritted her teeth softly. "I know everything. Was there a ghost cultivator called the Hell Demon who wanted to possess me earlier? Did you even fight him?" "I guess so, but it's fine now." Yi-Chen could only agree, seeing that he could not hide it any longer. Unexpectedly, Soo-yuhan hammered his chest hard and looked at him angrily with reddened eyes. "Xiaochen, can you hide everything from me in the future? I know you're doing this for my sake. You're afraid that I'll worry." At this point, tears welled up in her eyes and they kept rolling, But do you know that you're hiding everything from me and not letting me know anything? I'll worry more easily. Through the hell demon's memories. She truly knew the wonders of this vast universe. She knew that there were realms like longevity heaven outside of Earth, and that there were cultivators. Naturally, she thought of Yi Chen. She knew the dangers of cultivation. She also knew that in this world, the strong ruled. It was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. She also knew that it was not easy for Yi Chen to come this far. Yi Chen extended his hand to wipe away the tears on her face and hugged her tightly. All right, I promise you. I won't hide anything from you in the future. The couple looked at each other and their lips were getting closer and closer. At that moment, a concerned voice came from above the ancient well. Sister, how are you doing down there? Where's sister-in-law? Su Yuhan left his embrace as if she had done something guilty. She said with a flushed face, let's go back. One must be worried to death up there. All right. Yi Chen grabbed her slender waist with one hand and leaped. He carried her and leaped out of the ancient well that was dozens of meters deep. Sister-in-law, as soon as Su Yuhan landed, Yi Wen welcomed her excitedly. The two women hugged each other on the spot. One was crying while the other was comforting her. Sister-in-law, sob, I thought I would never see you again in my life. It's all my fault, it's all my fault. After Yi Chen led the few of them back to the Ghost Witch cult's ancestral court square, Su Yuhan looked at Yi Chen guiltily again when she saw the messy ancestral court. Hundreds of surviving Ghost Witch cult disciples knelt on the square while trembling as if they were waiting for Yi Chen to sentence them to death. The Ghost Witch cult was almost destroyed by Yi Chen this time. They lost more than half of their disciples. With the death of the cult master, the Ghost Witch cult lost their pillar of support. Two figures wriggled on the ground. They were none other than Guardian Bai and Guardian He. Yi Chen walked over slowly and looked at the two of them with a grim expression. I just want to know how the Ghost Witch cult knew that my woman has a mysterious body? Before this, he had never offended the Ghost Witch cult. He did not even know them, and he was the only one who knew that Su Yuhan had a mysterious body. He could not figure out how the Ghost Witch cult found out. Chapter 655. Thinking to this point, his eyes flickered a few times before he added, If you tell me, I might let you die a quick death. You win. Guardian He, whose lower body had been severed, sneered. As the saying goes, the winner takes all. Our Ghost Witch cult lost for no reason. However, don't even think about knowing who it was that threatened our Ghost Witch cult. Before he could finish, he suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream. Poochie! Fresh blood spurted out. One of his arms was torn apart by Shur at the side. Ah! Protector He's face contorted in pain. Protector Bai's face was full of fear. Poochie! Another arm was torn off. Just as Shur was about to attack again, he realized that the Black Protector's aura had been cut off. He had actually died from the pain. He could not help but reveal a look of dissatisfaction. Yi Chen looked at Guardian Bai again. What about you? I'll say, Guardian Bai's body trembled violently, and he hurriedly said, It's the palace master of the heavenly palace, Guan Shangyue, who revealed it to cult leader. Guan Shangyue already knew that cult leader was looking for a human furnace for sorcerer god. Guan Shangyue? Extreme killing intent surged from the depths of Yi Chen's eyes when he heard that. He then frowned and said, How did Guan Shangyue know that my woman has a mysterious body? No. Guardian Bai shook his head and said, Guan Shangyue doesn't know. He just happened to know about our Ghost Witch cult's plan because of the grudge between you and him. That's why he wanted to kill you with a borrowed knife. Grudges? Yi Chen could not help but smirk. From the beginning until the end, Guan Shangyue was the one who provoked him. Yi Chen figured that the Heavenly Palace was a special organization with the same nature as the Dragon Soul. Therefore, he had to fight back passively every time. Now Guan Shangyue was using the Ghost Witch cult to deal with Su Yuhan. This grudge was really huge. Just as he was thinking about it, Guardian Bai seemed to have thought of something. A hint of resentment flashed across his face. Mad Southern Yi, I actually don't hate you. Why? Yi Chen was slightly surprised. Guardian Bai gritted his teeth and said, after thinking about it carefully, I realized that everything that happened to the Ghost Witch cult today was caused by Guan Shangyue. He used the Ghost Witch cult to become your enemy and destroyed everything about the Ghost Witch cult. He even caused me to become like this. How can I not hate him? At this point, his gaze turned ferocious. Therefore, before I die, I'll tell you a secret related to Guan Shangyue. Yi Chen looked at him calmly. Guan Shangyue once came to Yaoshan to meet Sect Master. Guardian Bai took a deep breath and said word by word, at that time, I accidentally overheard their conversation. It turns out that the previous Dragon King of Dragon Soul was killed by Guan Shangyue. Yi Chen's expression turned serious when he heard that. To the previous Dragon King of the Dragon Soul. He had heard from Niu Qingshan that this Dragon King was a ferocious man of his generation. The last time the ghost ship appeared, the people of Shang Santian had wreaked havoc in the secular world. It was this Dragon King who personally killed his way to Kunlun and blocked the exit to Shang Santian. As long as someone from Shang Santian came out, he would kill one. If two came out, he would kill both. Continue. Yi Chen raised his brows. The previous Dragon King, Jiang Yuheng, suppressed China alone back then. Even the previous palace master of the Heavenly Palace was no match for him. Jiang Yuheng was a heroic person who cared about the common people. He repeatedly went against Shang Santian. Later on, it was rumored that he stepped onto the ghost ship and never came out again. Guardian Bai paused for a moment and said, that's just a rumor in the outside world. In reality, Jiang Yuheng was killed by the previous palace master of the Heavenly Palace, Guan Shangyue, and the powerhouses of Shang Santian before he even stepped onto the ghost ship. The battle back then was extremely tragic. If I hadn't heard Guan Shangyue admit it with my own ears, I wouldn't have believed it either. His face was filled with pity. It could be said that 50 years before Yi Chen appeared, the Dragon King, Jiang Yuheng, was a legend in China. He was also a hero in the hearts of the older generation. Even he, Guardian Bai, was no exception. I'm done. Mad Southern Yi, I hope you can live and kill Guan Shangyue to avenge me and Jiang Yuheng. I also hope that you can resist the power of Shang Santian. With that, he closed his eyes. Give him a quick death. Yi Chen instructed Yinshe. He turned around and walked into the Ghost Witch cult's main hall. His divine consciousness spread out. Any traps, secret rooms, or treasure pavilions could not escape his senses. However, to his disappointment, there were very few things that caught his eye in the huge Ghost Witch cult. Most of them were worldly items like money and gold. The only thing that was worth some money was an ancient sword that was refined with the blood of living people. It was barely a middle-grade magic tool. The blood energy on the sword soared into the sky, and there were also some refining materials. What was interesting was that he found an evil cultivation method called the spirit-seizing method. The cultivator stole other people's spiritual power and absorbed their life force to strengthen himself. Yi Chen shook his head and was about to leave after putting it away. Suddenly, he looked at the throne of the cult master of the Ghost Witch cult. There were faint formation fluctuations inside. He walked over and casually broke the formation. He realized that there was a secret compartment under the throne. There was a sandalwood box inside. There was a green object about the size of a walnut in the box. At that moment, Yi Chen's sea of consciousness was excited. His expression immediately froze. The immortal drift bottle trembled again. It was the second time the immortal drift bottle trembled since Yi Chen returned to Earth. The first time was when he saw a black seed on a stall in Tiannan's Lin City's antique street. The black seed was the same size as the thing before him. Could there be a connection between the two? Countless thoughts flashed through Yi Chen's mind at that moment. After he ripened the black seed with the green liquid in the immortal drift bottle, a flower with a strange fragrance bloomed. Yi Chen broke through from beginner stage spirit assembly to intermediate stage spirit assembly after absorbing the fragrance. Subsequently, the flower withered and produced a black fruit. Yi Chen used the green liquid in the immortal drift bottle to ripen it, but it was useless. As time passed, he forgot about it. And now, this green seed reminded him once again. Yi Chen looked at the green seed in his hand and frowned. Why does the cult master of the ghost witch cult have this? Does he know what it is? Forget it, I'll study it when I get back. He shook his head and put the green seed into his storage ring. He turned around and walked out of the hall of the ghost witch cult's ancestral court. Inshur immediately walked up to him and pointed at the hundreds of people kneeling in the distance. Master, what should we do with the remaining disciples of the ghost witch cult? Yi Chen looked over. The hundreds of people prostrated on the ground immediately. There were even 1 or 2 15 or 16-year-old children among them. Their faces were filled with fear. Yi Chen suddenly looked at Inshur. I plan to let you stay here and reorganize the remaining forces of the ghost witch cult. Then, you'll be the cult master. What do you think? Chapter 656. The reason why he would make such a decision. It was because he had killed all the upper echelons of the ghost witch cult, including the cult master. Even the omnipotent sorcerer god, the hell demon, was no exception. Most of the remaining survivors were low-level disciples with low strength. If he killed them as well, someone would occupy the ghost witch cult and continue doing evil after he left. Rather than that, he might as well subdue it. It could also be considered as accumulating some strength for himself. Perhaps he could use it at a special time. Inshur was shocked. Obviously, he did not expect him to suddenly ask that. Master, see, can I do it? If I say you can, then you can. Yi Chen shook his head firmly. With a thought, the blood-colored sword that he had collected in the hall earlier appeared in his hand. Inshur was already used to his unpredictable method. I'll bestow this sword upon you, and it will greatly increase your strength. Yi Chen smiled lightly as another cultivation method appeared in his hand. It was the spirit-snatching life-transforming method from earlier. I'll give this cultivation method to you too. I've removed some of the evil and vicious things in it. You can cultivate according to it. After Inshur accepted all of them, he knelt before Yi Chen on one knee. Thank you, Master. I'm willing to sacrifice my life for you. I won't hesitate to go through fire and water for you. I don't like the name Ghost Witch Cult. Let's just change it to Rain Alliance. My request to you is to restrain these people and not to do evil at the same time. If I find out, I will kill you. Yi Chen shook his head lightly and turned around to leave. Rain Alliance? Inshur was at a loss. He had no idea why Yi Chen would choose such an unimpressive name. However, he came to a realization when he saw Su Yuhan in the distance. Master's woman was called Su Yuhan, and his daughter was called Yi Mengmeng. Both of them had a word in the middle. Wasn't that the Rain Alliance? Seeing that Yi Chen was done, Su Yuhan, who was waiting aside, asked immediately, Shaochen, should we go back now? Mom and Dad must be worried sick. Also, I wonder how Mengmeng is crying. Yeah, it's time to go back. Yi Chen chuckled softly and was about to leave with Yi Wen and him. At that moment, a weak voice came from behind him. Mr. Yi. It was Princess Chana and the others. Chana's heart skipped a beat when she met Yi Chen's gaze. She mustered her courage and said, Mr. Yi, there's a lady from the Tai royal family, who's my aunt, who was also kidnapped by the ghost witch cult. Can I bring someone to look for her? Even she was in such a state, let alone Bantong and Arnold beside her. Chana was afraid that Yi Chen would not agree, so she knelt down immediately. Don't worry. The royal family of Thailand will definitely be grateful for your kindness. Sure. Yi Chen merely glanced at her and left with Su Yuhan and Yi Wen. Chana heaved a sigh of relief after he left. Although she was the princess of Thailand, she did not dare to put on airs in front of Yi Chen. Seemingly sensing her gaze, Su Yuhan, who was walking in front, turned around and rolled her eyes at Yi Chen. She said with a forced smile, "Xiaochen, you're really something. I saw that lady looking at you reluctantly. She seems to be the princess of Thailand, right?" Sensing the jealousy in her words, Yi Chen said between laughter and tears, "Don't worry, there's nothing between me and her. Ask Yiwen if you don't believe me. She can testify for me." Yiwen nodded repeatedly. Only then did Su Yuhan let go of Yi Chen. She suddenly said after a while of silence, "Xiaochen, I'm going to cultivate when we get back." Yi Chen stopped in his tracks when he heard that. Afraid that he would be unhappy, Su Yuhan explained in a low voice, "After this incident, I've thought about it seriously. This world is too big. As a man, your family shouldn't restrict you. My daughter and I shouldn't be your burden." Yi Chen wanted to say that they were the motivation for his cultivation. "Listen to me first." Seeing that he was about to interrupt, Su Yuhan pulled a long face and said angrily, "I'm very afraid that I'll encounter something like this again in the future. What should I do if you're not around? What about Meng Meng? What will you do if someone uses us to threaten you? Xiaochen, although you're unwilling to tell me anything, I know that you're very powerful. You're the Tianan #1, China #1, and East Asia #1. She paused as she spoke to this point and continued, "But there's always a higher mountain. It's impossible for you to kill everyone in the world. The only safe way is for me to cultivate too. That way, when you're out there helping us, I'll at least have the ability to protect Meng Meng and my parents." Yi Chen looked at her quietly as his gaze gradually became gentle. "Also, after obtaining the Hell Demon's memory, I know that cultivators like you can live for 100 years, 200 years, or even immortality." Su Yuhan bit her red lips lightly as her beautiful eyes turned slightly red. "But I'm just a mortal. I'll die. Although I've eaten the youth-retaining pill, I'll die too. I don't want you to stand in front of my morning hall one day and watch me die." Yi Chen held her soft hand by instinct when he saw that she was about to cry. "Great, that's great. This is my woman. I agree with your cultivation. I'll guide you when we get back." His original idea was to let Su Yuhan enjoy a normal life as much as possible. After all, once she embarked on the path of cultivation, she was destined to give up many things and face many dangers. Since Su Yuhan took the initiative to mention it, he could only agree. "Oh, can the two of you stop showing off your affection in front of me? I'm so jealous." Yiwen, who was walking at the front, turned around and saw that. She could not help but say sourly. She looked at Yi Chen in anticipation after saying that. "Brother, see, can I cultivate too?" Yi Chen shook his head lightly and said, "That depends on whether you have the talent. I'll take the time to test you when we get back." As the saying went, when a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs rise to heaven. Since they could not maintain the current situation, they would cultivate. Yi Chen returned home more than 2 hours later. Yi Hai and Wu Lan were so excited that they covered their faces and cried when they saw Su Yuhan behind him, especially Wu Lan. She blamed Yi Chen while crying. Yi Chen was surprised to find out that Niu Qingshan and an old man dressed as a Taoist priest were at his house. Compared to his surprise, Niu Qingshan was shocked. He knew about Yi Chen's trip to the ghost witch cult. He had heard about the cult master and the sorcerer god. He thought that Yi Chen's trip would be filled with danger and he might even die. She didn't expect him to bring her back safely. However, he could not care less about that. He led Yi Chen into the bedroom immediately and pointed at the skinny figure lying on the bed. "See for yourself." Chapter 657. Yi Chen followed his gaze and looked over. There was a thin and small figure lying on the bed. Beside him were 9 candles that formed the 9 palaces and 8 trigrams, protecting him within. If one looked closely, they would find that the 9 candles formed a formation, and there was a faint blue energy shield in midair that covered the entire bed. Meanwhile, the figure on the bed was emitting rays of golden light. These rays of golden light were constantly attacking the energy barrier. Even so, the energy shield trembled incessantly and seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. The 9 candles in the surroundings flickered, as if they would be extinguished at any moment. "It hurts, Qianqian, it hurts! Grandpa's son, Qianqian is in pain," a childish murmur mixed with pain rang out from time to time. "Qianqian." Yi Chen's expression changed slightly. He walked over immediately and extended his hand through the energy shield directly. He placed his hand on the little girl's forehead. The Taoist priest next to Niu Qingshan's pupils shrunk slightly when he saw that because Yi Chen broke through his formation easily. At this time, Yi Hai and the others also surrounded the door. "What's going on?" Yi Chen and Su Yuhan's voices came almost at the same time. Outside the door, Yang Tian said in a deep voice, "Old Yi, after you left, a blood moon appeared in the sky just after 11 p.m. Then, Qianqian suddenly fainted. Golden light kept flying out of her body. Your mother and I were looking at the moon in the courtyard." Yi Hai nodded. Niu Qingshan took over and said, "You saw the phenomenon in the sky just now, right? I was worried about your Yi clan, so I took the time to come and take a look. I also discovered that this little girl has changed." He seemed to have thought of something as he spoke to this point. He looked at the old Taoist priest next to him and introduced him to Yi Chen. "Oh yeah, this is Lu Qingming. He's an old friend I've known since many years ago. He's now a member of the Celestial Master Hall." He looked at Qianqian on the bed again. At that time, the golden light on this girl's body caused quite a big commotion. Your Yi family's villa within a radius of 10 miles saw it. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, I asked old Lu to set up a formation to cover this girl. Lu Qingming bowed to Yi Chen and said with a bitter smile, "I've lived for most of my life and I think I've seen a lot. However, I don't know what the golden light on this girl's body is, so I can only set up the 9 Palace 8 trigrams formation to cover it. Even so, my formation won't be able to withstand it for long." Niu Qingshan glanced at Yi Hai and the others. "Mr. Yi, can you leave for a moment? I have something to say to little Yi alone." Yi Hai nodded and left with Su Yuhan, Yang Tian, and the rest. He even closed the door. At that moment, there were only Yi Chen, Liu Qingming, and him in the room. Niu Qingshan frowned and looked at Yi Chen. He went straight to the point. "Have you destroyed the Ghost Witch cult?" "That's right." Yi Chen admitted it openly. Niu Qingshan nodded and asked again, "If I'm not wrong, the phenomenon in the sky was caused by you, right?" "Yes and no, but it has something to do with me." Yi Chen shook his head lightly and told him what had happened. Of course, he did not mention anything about the Hell Demon trying to possess Su Yuhan. Even though there were loopholes in his words, Niu Qingshan did not pursue the matter. Instead, Liu Qingshan gasped, "It's actually the rare 4-in period?" Seemingly sensing Niu Qingshan's doubt, Liu Qingshan suppressed the shock in his heart and explained. Niu Qingshan was also shocked. He then looked at Qianqian on the bed. "In other words, the change in this girl's body is related to the 4-in period?" "I guess so." Yi Chen nodded lightly. Subsequently, he extended his hand to Qianqian with a serious expression. The moment his hand touched a wisp of golden radiance, the greenish-gold radiance disappeared immediately. Night Demon's voice rang in his mind, "Master, this is extreme yang energy. This girl can actually emit extreme yang energy." Night Demon's voice was a little surprised. Yi Chen came to a realization. As the saying went, the way of heaven was yin and yang. The yin and yang here referred to extreme yin and extreme yang. The so-called extreme yang energy was an existence that was different from extreme yin energy. It was the extreme of the yang side of yin and yang. It could transform into anything and everything. Legend had it that after Pangu split the world apart and died, his left eye turned into the sun and his right eye turned into the moon. 2 streams of energy shot out of his nose, which were extreme yin energy and extreme yang energy respectively. However, what puzzled him was how Qianqian possessed extreme yang energy. One had to know that this kind of thing was extremely rare even in the cultivation world. Night Demon's voice sounded again. Master, let me absorb more of this girl's extreme yang energy. If that's the case, my injuries will recover very quickly. However, Yi Chen said through voice transmission, no, this girl has released so much extreme yang energy. Her body's condition is terrible. If you take a few more breaths, she won't be able to live. After saying that, he raised his eyes and said to Niu Qingshan and Lu Qingming, please leave for a while. I've already thought of a solution. Niu Qingshan knew that he had his own secrets. He looked at him deeply and said, hurry up. This girl was like the sun earlier. I'm worried that Shang Santian and that junior brother of mine will find out about her existence. After saying that, he led Lu Qingming out. After the two of them left, Yi Chen set up a soundproof barrier with his divine consciousness. A green brush appeared in his hand. It was the Heavenly Origin brush. He first glanced at Qianqian on the bed and seemed to be talking to himself. I know you're extraordinary, but I don't know where you come from. I also don't know if we'll be friends or enemies in the future. The reason why I saved you today is because we met by chance on the streets of 10,000 people. It's because you once called me Big Brother. After saying that, he casually dispersed his physical strength and bit his middle finger. A drop of light golden blood floated in the air. The drop of light golden blood emitted dense spiritual energy. Yi Chen stretched out his hand and the Heavenly Origin brush landed in his hand. He waved the Heavenly Origin brush and dipped it into the drop of light golden blood in the air. With a loud shout, the Heavenly Origin brush suddenly formed a seal in the air. A spirit seal that contained extremely powerful sealing power condensed in the air. At that moment, Yi Chen's face turned slightly pale. He took a deep breath and tapped on Qianqian's Tianling acupoint with the first brush. Since ancient times, the Saint King has 10 strokes. 1 stroke, heaven. He tapped on Qianqian's Dishen acupoint. 1 stroke, earth. 1 stroke, life and death. 1 stroke, rivers and mountains. With every stroke, Yi Chen's complexion would weaken a little. Night Demon saw this scene and took a deep look at Qianqian, who was lying on the bed. He sighed to himself. A mortal can actually make Master use Saint King's 10 strokes. I wonder how many lifetimes she has cultivated her anger. One must know that Master Saint King's 10 strokes was used on the immortal bestowal platform when the immortal world was first established and the heavenly court was first established. Chapter 658. Inside the Yi family villa, Yi Chen held the Heavenly Origin brush in his hand as he exuded an extremely dignified aura. The Heavenly Origin brush kept drawing on Qianqian's body. If there were outsiders present, they would be shocked to discover that Qianqian's body was covered in golden runes. The runes sealed all 10 of her acupoints. It was like a rune formation formed by golden tadpoles. Although Yi Chen did not know why there was extreme yang energy in Qianqian's body, he was sure that as the extreme yang energy continued to leak, Qianqian would be exhausted. That was why he decided to use the Saint King's 10 strokes to seal the extreme yang energy in Qianqian's body. It could be considered as worsening the situation. Nothingness gives birth to nature, nature gives birth to the great Tao gives birth to Qi, the Qi is divided into yin and yang are heaven and earth give birth to all things. He held the Heavenly Origin brush in his hand and pointed the last stroke at Qianqian, seal. Boom, a soul-stirring formation wave came from Qianqian's body. Countless golden lines wrapped around her tightly as if she was wearing a golden divine robe. The golden radiance that was dissipating from her body gradually returned to her body. Her complexion gradually began to improve. It's done. He heaved a sigh of relief, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. Even so, his face turned extremely pale. Night Demon asked worriedly, Master, are you all right? I'm fine. Yi Chen shook his head lightly. He lifted his head to look at Qianqian, who was breathing steadily, and said with a bitter smile, I've just exhausted all my spiritual energy. Fortunately, my body is strong enough. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to use the Saint King's 10 strokes. He had created the Saint King's 10 strokes. It would be a piece of cake for him to use it at his peak. However, his current strength was far from enough, so he could only use 3 strokes. Even so, he was exhausted. Old demon, keep an eye on this girl. I'll recover my spiritual energy. Yi Chen took out a bunch of medicinal pills from his storage ring and swallowed them one by one. He closed his eyes and began to recover his exhausted spiritual energy. 2 hours later, Yi Chen opened his eyes. He got up and walked to the bed to check Qianqian's body again. After confirming that she was fine, he nodded to himself. Night Demon suddenly said, Master, this little girl is a little strange. Before Yi Chen could speak, he continued, when you were cultivating earlier, I secretly checked her body. As soon as my divine will entered her body, there was a strange devouring power that kept tearing at me. If I hadn't decisively abandoned that wisp of divine will, I'm afraid I would have been in trouble. Yi Chen could not help but chuckle softly when he heard that. Have you noticed what's special about this girl too? Before that, I had a fellow Taoist called Old Ancestor Yellow Spring. He immediately told Night Demon about the Patriarch of Hell and then added, the Patriarch is quite similar to him. I'm looking forward to the scene when they meet. Patriarch Yellow Spring was famous for being lecherous. Night Demon was also a little bit like that. However, this old fellow was not lustful. He was just a shrewd old man who liked to tease little girls. He would only be satisfied when the little girls cried. How can a cultivator at the crossing calamity stage be called an ancestor? Unexpectedly, Night Demon smiled in disdain. Back then, I once killed immortals with Master. I've killed countless cultivators at the crossing calamity stage. At this point, his habit of taking advantage of his seniority acted up again. Master, just watch. When this Yellow Spring brat returns, I'll definitely teach him a lesson. He thought to himself that the old demon's personality had not changed at all. He shook his head and looked at Qianqian, who was on the bed. Logically speaking, this girl should have woken up by now. However, there was no sign of her waking up. Instead, she kept mumbling, Grandpa's son, big guy. He hesitated for a moment. He pointed a finger at Qianqian's glabella. At the same time, a trace of his divine will entered Qianqian's sea of consciousness. He really wanted to understand this girl. This feeling was very strong. The sea of consciousness was the core of a person's soul. It contained memories, experiences, personality, and so on. However, when Yi Chen's divine will entered Qianqian's sea of consciousness, he saw fog. It was an endless white fog. It was like a sea of fog with no end or beginning. Suddenly, an extremely strange devouring power appeared out of nowhere. His wisp of divine sense was devoured cleanly with a loud bang. How could this be? Yi Chen calmed down slightly. He separated a thicker wisp of divine will and explored Qianqian's sea of consciousness aimlessly. He wanted to see what could devour his divine will. Strangely, the devouring power did not appear this time. When Yi Chen's patience was about to run out, the white fog around him suddenly dispersed. What appeared before him was a seal. As soon as his spiritual will touched the seal, a strange light flashed across his eyes. Boom! A shocking sword gleam slashed at him. Vaguely, it looked like a scholar holding a golden book in his hand. The sword seemed to want to split the heavenly river waterfall. Break! Yi Chen's divine will swayed and turned into a divine will blade that charged at the shocking sword chi. The sword chi dissipated immediately, and the pale-faced scholar holding the scripture disappeared as well. Even so, Yi Chen's divine will showed signs of collapse. Meanwhile, the seal disappeared as well. He thought that there would be a new world after the seal. Who would have thought that it would be another seal? In the seal, there was a giant ape dragging a mace as it walked on the vast land. Every step it took caused the ground to tremble. Sensing the invasion of Yi Chen's divine will, the giant ape swung its mace. The mace shattered the wisp of Yi Chen's divine will in Qianqian's sea of consciousness. Bang! Yi Chen, who was outside the sea of consciousness, took a step back and grunted. He looked at Qianqian again with deep shock in his eyes. What kind of existence is this? Why is there such a seal in her sea of consciousness, and every seal is protected by a mysterious power? Whether it was the scholar or the giant ape, their combat power was much stronger than the opponents Yi Chen had encountered after returning to Earth. His eyes flickered a few times. Just as he was about to explore further, he saw the unconscious Qianqian's fingers move, and she slowly opened her eyes. Qianqian's eyes lit up when she saw him. "Big brother, you're back? Did you find big sister?" Her eyes were very clear, without any impurities. "I'm back. I found big sister too." Yi Chen gave up on the thought and said with a smile, "Qianqian, how do you feel?" "I'm fine." Qianqian was stunned at first, then she shook her head in a daze and said, "I feel like I just slept. My head is a little dizzy and I'm a little hungry." Growl. After saying that, her stomach growled. She looked at Yi Chen shyly. She mustered her courage and said timidly, "Big brother, is there anything to eat? Just give me a mantu. I won't trouble you too much." Chapter 659. At 4 o'clock in the morning. The Yi family's villa was full of people, but everyone's eyes were focused on Qianqian, who was eating a burger. Yi Chen had ordered Lin Tai to buy the burgers. Seeing that so many people were paying attention to her, Qianqian was a little nervous. She took a bite of her burger and looked up at the crowd from time to time. She was very thrifty. Even if she accidentally dropped food crumbs on the table, she would pick them up with her hands and eat them. It was probably a habit she had developed when she was a vagabond. Niu Qingshan was amused by her and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He got up and said, "Since you're back, I should go back too." Lu Qingming, who was next to him, also stood up. "Let me see you two off." Yi Chen nodded lightly and sent the two of them out of the Yi residence villa. Subsequently, he flicked his finger and two medicinal pills shot into Niu Qingshan and Lu Qingming's hands. "This is..." Niu Qingshan was puzzled. On the contrary, Lu Qingming, who was next to him, looked at the elixir in his hand in shock and almost exclaimed on the spot, "Spirit pills! A real elixir! Even he couldn't refine such a spirit pill." Yi Chen said while clasping his fists lightly as if he sensed their confusion, "Thank you for what you've done tonight. Take these two medicinal pills as a token of my gratitude. The one in Old Ox's hand is the regeneration pill. It can regrow a severed arm. As for Master Lu's pill, it's a soul accumulation pill. For spell masters like us, it can increase our mental strength." As his voice fell, LV Qingming could no longer hold it in and exclaimed, "Mr. Yi, are you saying that this pill can strengthen the mental strength of us spell masters?" To spell masters, comprehension ranked first. This was because spell masters cultivated magical arts and divine abilities. Without comprehension, it was very difficult for them to make any progress. To put it bluntly, comprehension was mental strength. The stronger one's mental strength was, the more things one could comprehend. However, mental strength was an abnormally ethereal thing. It could only be strengthened by constantly improving one's cultivation. This was the first time he had heard that it could be strengthened by using medicinal pills. If news of this were to spread out, it would surely set off a storm. Yi Chen smiled lightly when he met his gaze. "Of course." Lu Qingming suddenly bowed to Yi Chen and said excitedly, "Thank you for your gift, Mr. Yi. May I ask if there's still such a soul-nourishing pill or a pill formula? I and the entire Celestial Master Hall are willing to exchange for it at any price." "That's all." However, Yi Chen's words extinguished his enthusiasm. "I obtained this medicinal pill by accident. I don't have many of them. Liu Qingming instantly understood the meaning of his words and did not say anything more. He was just disappointed in his heart. If only he had the recipe of the divine accumulation pill. The combat power of the Celestial Master Hall would rise to another level. At least this kid has some conscience. I didn't make a trip in the middle of the night in vain. Niu Qingshan happily accepted the life creation pill and left with Liu Qingming. Yi Chen watched the two of them leave. He was thinking about the secret of the previous Dragon King's death that the ghost which cult's guardian by had told him before he died. In the end, he did not tell Niu Qingshan. With Niu Qingshan's departure, Yi Hai and the others no longer felt constrained. Wu Lan glanced at Qianqian, who was about to finish the entire burger, and could not help but ask, "Xiaochen, is Qianqian really all right?" "Mom, don't worry. She's fine." Yi Chen smiled and returned to the house to look at Meng Meng, who was lying on the bed. The little girl was sleeping soundly. She was the only one who did not know anything that night. At that moment, Su Yuhan could not help but follow them in. She walked over and kissed the little girl's cheek. Her eyes were a little moist. She had heard from Wu Lan and the rest that her daughter had been crying for her mother ever since she went missing. Yi Chen watched quietly. Subsequently, he removed the sleeping curse on Meng Meng. The little girl rubbed her sleepy eyes after she woke up and called for her daddy first. She was stunned when she saw Su Yuhan next to Yi Chen. She threw herself into Su Yuhan's embrace immediately. "Mommy, I thought you didn't want me anymore." "Silly child, even if Mommy doesn't want Daddy, I won't abandon you." Su Yuhan could not help but cry at first, but she was amused by her silly words. Unexpectedly, the little girl pouted and said in all seriousness, "No, Mommy wants Daddy. I can't be without Daddy." Su Yuhan reached out and pinched her nose. "Then, Mommy will give you a test. Between Mommy and Daddy, you can only choose one. Who are you going to choose?" Yi Chen was speechless when he heard that. Women really loved to give people multiple choice questions. He could not help but recall a joke that he had read before. It was said that a woman asked a man if she and her mother fell into the water at the same time and could only save one person, who would she choose? It was a suicide question. However, he could not help but look at Meng Meng in anticipation. He wanted to know who was more important in her heart between him and Su Yuhan. The little girl would look at Su Yuhan and Yi Chen from time to time. Her little face was filled with conflict. "Can I only choose one?" "That's right, my dear daughter. Think carefully. Mommy can cook for you and wash your clothes for you." Su Yuhan tempted her openly. Yi Chen secretly shook his head. "Women." The little girl looked at Yi Chen and said decisively, "Then, I'll choose Daddy." Su Yuhan's face turned grim as soon as she said that. "Why?" "He's a piece of meat that fell from Mommy's body. Mommy changed his diaper and fed him. Daddy hasn't even hugged him since he was born. Are you saying that I gave birth to him? People say that daughters are close to their fathers. Could it be true?" She was secretly jealous. Even Yi Chen was surprised. "Then, I'll still choose Daddy," the little girl said in her baby voice, "because if I follow Daddy, I can chase after Mommy with Daddy. I can also help Mommy keep an eye on Daddy and stop him from looking for other women." Su Yuhan could not help but laugh out loud. "You're such a smart girl." Yi Chen picked her up and kissed her hard. He was over the moon. The little girl's answer seemed innocent, but it made Su Yuhan's mood brighten up. She smiled through her tears and resolved the awkwardness caused by the question earlier. Just when they were talking, vomiting noises came from outside. When Yi Chen walked out after hearing that, he saw his mother, Wu Lan, vomiting in the bathroom. She seemed to be in pain. Su Yuhan walked over and patted her back softly. "Are you all right, Mom?" Yi Chen could not help but look at his father, Yi Hai, who was outside. Yi Hai smoked his pipe and looked confused. "Mom has been vomiting a lot lately. She even said that she wants to eat something sour." Su Yuhan was slightly stunned. Su Yuhan was slightly stunned as if she recalled something. "Is she sick?" Let me take a look at her. Yi Chen did not think much about it and walked into the bathroom. Su Yuhan glared at him. Go away. What's the matter? She even gave Yi Chen a look when she was done speaking. Chapter 660. When the sky was about to brighten, their parents went to bed. Meng Meng and Qianqian were playing games outside. From time to time, there would be game notifications of their teammates getting 3 kills and 5 kills. Meanwhile, in the room, Yi Chen looked at Su Yuhan, who was sitting on the bed in shock. He said in disbelief, "Why, you're saying that our mom's pregnant?" He shook his head at the end of his sentence. That's impossible. Why is it impossible? Su Yuhan rolled her eyes at him angrily. What do you know as a man? A month after I was pregnant with Meng Meng, I often felt nauseous, dizzy, sleepy, and sour. Yi Chen believed her a little after hearing what she said. He said, not knowing whether to laugh or cry, I really can't accept it. Why can't you accept it? Su Yuhan rebuked. Although it's not easy for a woman to get pregnant after 50, it doesn't mean that it's impossible. Moreover, when you disappeared for 5 years, Mom and Dad thought you were dead. They might have thought of having another child. She looked at Yi Chen with a forced smile as she said, judging from our mom's reaction, it shouldn't be long now. Xiaochen, congratulations. You're about to have a younger brother or sister. Meng Meng will also have a little uncle or aunt. Yi Chen was speechless. No one could accept such a thing easily. Seeing that he did not speak, Su Yuhan sighed faintly and said, It seems like Dad and Mom don't know. What we have to worry about now is that Mom is already so old. If she gives birth, will she won't. Yi Chen dispelled her worries. Although Mom is old, she has eaten the medicinal pills I refined. Her physique is different from ordinary people. Moreover, don't you have me? That's great. Su Yuhan nodded. Let's pretend that we don't know about this so that we won't embarrass Mom and Dad. Let's wait for them to bring it up and agree. She also felt a little upset in her heart. Her father-in-law and mother-in-law had been urging her to have a second child with Yi Chen, but her stomach had not responded. Instead, her mother-in-law was pregnant. She could not help but doubt herself again. Yi Chen nodded lightly. I know what to do. It wasn't that he couldn't accept this fact, it mainly depended on his parents' opinion. With the Yi family's current conditions, not to mention one, they could even afford to raise 10. As they were talking, Su Yuhan stood up and walked outside. She said to the 2 little girls who were playing games, Meng Meng, Qianqian, keep your voices down. Grandpa and Grandma haven't slept the whole night. Don't disturb them. Only then did the 2 little fellows turn off the sound of the game. Su Yuhan returned to her room and changed into her pajamas. She seemed to have recalled something when she sat on the bed. She lifted her head and said, Oh yeah, Xiaochen, it's Meng Meng's birthday the day after tomorrow. How do you plan to celebrate it for her? Yi Chen then thought of something. What do you think? If he remembered correctly, his daughter's birthday was on the 8th day of the 10th lunar month, which was November 4th. She was a Scorpio and was 5 years old. I'll order a birthday cake for my daughter. Su Yuhan frowned. Clearly, she had not thought about it yet. As for the details, I'll ask my daughter for her opinion. It's going to be Lidong soon. I can buy her new clothes then. As she spoke to this point, she added, I'll buy a few sets for Qianqian too. I think this girl has been wearing Meng Meng's clothes. They don't fit her well. The sky soon turned bright. Yi Chen chatted with Su Yuhan in the room almost the entire time. They talked until 7 in the morning when Su Yuhan remembered that her daughter had to go to school, so she had to make breakfast. Yi Chen walked out of the room as well. He thought that the 2 little girls were still playing games, but to his surprise, Meng Meng was doing her homework on the table in an abnormal manner. She was extremely serious. Yo, did the sun rise from the west today? Yi Chen walked over while smiling. My daughter knows to do her homework by herself? Come, what did you write? Let me see. Unexpectedly, the little girl was like a frightened rabbit. She held the homework book in her arms and said guiltily, Daddy, you're not allowed to see it. You're not letting me see it? Yi Chen's interest was piqued. He said with a forced smile, could it be that there's a secret? Don't tell me that a kid in your class wrote you a love letter? No way. Meng Meng pouted and hid the homework book behind her back. However, in the next second she felt that her hand was empty. The homework book appeared in Yi Chen's hand. It seemed to be a diary. He flipped to the first page, and the title was My Daddy. Yi Chen was elated. He thought to himself that his daughter had written about him. He read it word by instinct. My daddy was in a car accident last year, and both of his legs were broken. Although I can only sit in a wheelchair, I'm still mentally disabled. Daddy has always taught me that people can't be defeated by hardships. Yi Chen's smile gradually froze when he read to this point. He looked at his healthy legs by instinct. Subsequently, he grabbed Meng Meng, who was about to escape, and said with a forced smile, Yi Meng Meng, you're good. You wrote well. When did I break my legs and sit in a wheelchair? When did I teach you that people can't be defeated by hardships? I can't believe you still know the words mentally disabled. Daddy, I am just messing around. The little girl blushed and stammered, Fatty Lee's writing is even more exaggerated than mine. He said that his daddy can't find a wife even though he's 38 years old. He's an old bachelor. The corner of Yi Chen's lips twitched slightly. He continued to flip to the second page. After my daddy's legs were broken, my mommy cried until she went blind. He then looked at Su Yuhan, who was busy cooking for a heartless daughter in the kitchen. She had no idea that she had become blind. One winter morning, my grandparents and I were clearing mines on the road together. We even had a thunder fight. The little girl had already buried her head at that moment. She was like a shy little quail, not daring to look at Yi Chen at all. Yi Chen said nothing. Instead, he stretched his arm and pointed at the eraser on the table. The little girl understood immediately after seeing that. She picked up the eraser and wiped the diary clean. She even looked at Yi Chen pitifully after she was done. Don't do that again. Yi Chen glared at her with a straight face. He stole a glance at the kitchen at the end of his sentence and softened his tone. Actually, you can write that Daddy is more handsome. For example, my daddy is the head of the family. Mommy listens to Daddy very much. If Daddy says something, Mommy definitely won't say anything. Su Yuhan walked out with a few bowls of fried egg noodles. Xiaochen, remember to wash my clothes after I go to the office. My underwear can't be put into the washing machine. I have to wash it by hand. Mop the floor too. Oh yeah, go to the market to buy some groceries. Yi Chen chuckled immediately. Sure, honey. Chapter 661. After breakfast, Su Yuhan recalled that she had not been to the company for 2 to 3 days, so she hurriedly brought Meng Meng and Qian out. Yi Chen followed her instructions and washed all the clothes in the washing machine one after another. He mopped the floor and left after saying goodbye to his parents, who had just woken up. Lin City Hongtai Club. Yi Chen took a good look at Yang Tian and Lin Tai from a close distance. He only nodded a while later and said, Not bad. I've only been gone for a few days, and both of you have broken through to intermediate stage spirit assembly. Your aura is different now. If the duo could only be considered as ordinary people with brute force before, they could be considered as real cultivators now. Perhaps it was because they were carrying out missions with Niu Qingshan, but the two of them would inadvertently reveal a trace of murderous aura. Lin Tai said respectfully immediately, It's all thanks to you, my lord. I dare not be arrogant. Ah Tai, you definitely don't have the face to be proud. Yang Tian looked at him disdainfully and said, You started cultivating a month earlier than me, and now I've caught up to you. If I were you, I wouldn't be proud either. Lin Tai said with a grim expression, Can you not call me Ah Tai? All right, Ah Tai. Yi Chen shook his head lightly upon seeing the duo bickering like children. He said to Lin Tai while looking at him, How's the information that I asked you guys to find out? Before he went to Japan, He had instructed Lin Tai to find out about the whereabouts of the old man who had led Qianqian out of the ghost ship 50 years ago. Only by finding him could they uncover Qianqian's identity. Lin Tai said in a deep voice, "My lord, I've mobilized all my resources, but I didn't manage to find out anything. 50 years is too long." Yi Chen nodded lightly. He did not have much hope. After all, 50 years was too long. Even though someone had seen the old man 50 years ago, most of them were probably dead 50 years later. Shang Santian had been searching for him, so naturally, the other party would not let them find him easily. Yang Tian seemed to have thought of something. "By the way, old Yi, Tai and I came into contact with a cultivator from Shang Santian a few days ago. He said that Shang Santian has been looking for a little girl and an old man." As he said that, he could not help but look at Yi Chen. Could Qianqian be not bad? Yi Chen nodded lightly and said, "It's good that you know." Yang Tian and Lin Tai looked at each other. They could see the deep shock in each other's eyes. Even though they had their guesses, they still found it unbelievable. A few seconds later, Yang Tian said, "Then what do you plan to do? Qianqian will be exposed one day, right? What else can we do? Let's just take it one step at a time." Yi Chen chuckled softly. "I'm waiting for someone." Shi Qianhan had once gone to Shang Santian. 1 month was almost up. He wanted to see if this person could come out alive. Yang Tian suddenly said, "Old Yi, do you still remember the last time I told you that I planned to introduce my cousin to you?" Yi Chen was a little unconvinced. "You mean the cousin who can lift 2 stone lions without cultivating?" "Yes, that's him." Yang Tian nodded. "His name is Yang Wusong. He's been working at the construction site for the past few days. Plus, you were busy, so I didn't bring him to see you. This kid is a fierce person. Because the foreman ran away with the money, he chased him all the way to Lin City and even beat him up. I was the one who dragged him out of the detention center." "Ask him to come over and let me meet him," Yi Chen said. After Yi Chen said that, Yang Tian took out his phone and made a call immediately. Soon, there was a knock on the door. It was a young man in a suit. He looked to be around 24 or 25 years old. His facial features were not considered handsome, but there was a determined look between his brows. Yang Tian must have told him about Yi Chen's identity in advance. Therefore, he was a little nervous the moment he entered. He stood in a military stance subconsciously and saluted Yi Chen. "Greetings, Chief." Yi Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry at the way he addressed him. He said while smiling, "I'm not some chief. Just call me Mr. Yi. Have you been a soldier before?" "Mr. Yi, I was a conscript for 2 years." Yang Wusong nodded and said, "I was promoted to a private first class 2 years later and retired. Since I'm not educated, I've been a driver or a security guard everywhere." "Old Yi, this kid has a hot temper. I heard that when he was in the military, he couldn't be promoted to a sergeant because he beat someone up." Yang Tian interrupted. "Even after he retired, he often fought with people. Many companies didn't dare to hire him, so he could only work at the construction site in the end." "Follow old Yang for now." Yi Chen nodded. He did not mind being brave and ruthless. After all, he was a young man. He valued his character more. His phone rang as he was speaking. It was Niu Qingshan calling. "Little Yi, come to me. I'll introduce you to 2 people. Dragon Soul Headquarters." As soon as Yi Chen walked through the door, he saw a group of people passing by him. Most of them were injured, and Li Ying was leading them. Li Ying stopped walking as soon as she saw him. She walked up and said respectfully, "Mr. Yi, what's going on with these people?" Yi Chen looked at the injured people. "Mr. Yi, there are a few scums in Tongzhou." Li Ying's pretty face turned cold as she said hatefully, "These scums are from Shang Santian. They broke into the prison as soon as they came out. Our brothers were injured trying to suppress them." "Is this happening frequently recently?" Yi Chen frowned slightly. Li Ying nodded and said, It's getting more and more frequent. Even if there were in the past, there would only be 2 or 3 of them. However, as more and more people from Shang Santian enter the world, such cases happen every day in a state. Our brothers are getting more and more understaffed. I got it. Yi Chen secretly shook his head and walked in. Looking at his retreating back, Li Ying thought to herself, how great would it be if Mr. Yi could help my dragon soul? I heard that the boss wants him to take over as the next Dragon King. When Yi Chen approached the room where Niu Qingshan was, he heard voices coming from inside. Clearly, he was not the only one there. Niu Qingshan sat up immediately when he saw him. Little Yi, you're here? Before Yi Chen could speak, he said while smiling, let me introduce 2 people to you. Yi Chen only noticed a man and a woman sitting next to him. The other party also lifted his head to look at him. When their eyes met, they saw surprise in each other's eyes. The woman sitting on the right was slightly stunned. She then covered her mouth and giggled. Yi Chen, I can't believe we meet again. Who else could it be other than Luo Yao, who Yi Chen had met in Japan? Meanwhile, next to her was naturally Tang Jianfeng. Tang Jianfeng lifted his eyes and nodded lightly at Yi Chen as a greeting. Chapter 662. Niu Qingshan was slightly stunned when he saw that. He could not stop looking at Yi Chen and Luo Yao. Do you guys know each other? Yi Chen said while smiling, yes. It's great that you know each other. Niu Qingshan did not pursue the matter further. He put away the smile on his face. Yi, the reason why I'm here today is to discuss something with you. At this point, he subconsciously looked at Luo Yao. Ms. Luo, let me do the talking. Let me do it. Luo Yao nodded lightly and said to Yi Chen, Yi Chen, actually, Xiaofeng and I are both from Shang Santian. We've been hiding it from you. I have to apologize to you. Yi Chen said, don't worry about it. In reality, he had already guessed their identities when he was in Japan. However, he secretly nodded now that they were willing to be honest. My real name is Luo Shuiyao, and I'm from the Luo family of Shang Santian. She gritted her teeth and said, Xiaofeng's real name is Tang Jianfeng, and he's from the Tang family of Shang Santian. I hid it from you because I didn't know your identity, and we're not familiar with each other. I won't introduce you to Shang Santian. She glanced at Yi Chen meaningfully. After all, they've killed many people from Shang Santian before. For example, Bai Zhanyuan from the Bai family and Bai Hongyu. They should have some understanding of Shang Santian. Yi Chen nodded. Of course, I'm not saying that to condemn you. Luo Shuiyao giggled. In reality, Shang Santian is not much different from the secular world. All sorts of ancient martial families and forces are intertwined, and there are conflicts between them. Bai Zhanyuan and Bai Hongyu are from the Bai family, and Duan Hong is from the Duan family. The Luo family, including the Tang family, don't like the Bai and Duan families. Moreover, I've learned about Bai Zhanyuan. They deserved to die. Even if it were me, I would kill them without hesitation. Since returning to China from Japan, Luo Shuiyao and Tang Jianfeng had found out everything about Yi Chen's past and background, including how Bai Zhanyuan had his eyes on Su Yuhan and was eventually killed by Yi Chen. She changed the topic and said, although the Luo family and the Tang family don't care, it doesn't mean that the Bai family and the Duan family won't pursue it. You have to be mentally prepared. Yi Chen smiled lightly as if he was proud. It's all right. Since I dared to kill them, naturally, I'm not afraid of the so-called Bai and Duan families. Luo Yao and Tang Jianfeng looked at each other. Tang Jianfeng took over and said, Yi Chen, I admit that he's rather powerful. Apart from the previous Dragon King, Jiang Yuheng, and the previous Heavenly Palace Master, he's the most talented person in China in the past 100 years. He paused for a moment and looked at Yi Chen firmly. However, don't underestimate Shang Santian because of this. People like Bai Zhanyuan are considered the younger generation disciples in Shang Santian at most. Moreover, they're not that outstanding, let alone the older generation. Not bad. Luo Shueiyao nodded, and her pretty face turned grim. We've already seen his strength in Japan. There are a few other powerhouses that I know who are not inferior to him. For example, Bai Xiaoyu from the Bai family and Xiao Yuanjing from the Xiao family. They're all the best among the younger generation of Shang Santian. Every one of them is a martial venerable. Niu Qingshan's pupils constricted when he heard that. He, the Dragon King of the Dragon Soul, had only just become a martial venerable. Without Yi Chen, he would be the most powerful person in China. However, someone from the younger generation of Shang Santian had stepped into the martial venerable stage. This was the difference between Shang Santian and the secular world. It was not an exaggeration to describe it as a natural chasm. Luo Shueiyao and Tang Jianfeng had been paying attention to Yi Chen's expression when they were saying that. They thought Yi Chen's expression would change after hearing that. However, Yi Chen did not react at all. It was as if he did not hear anything. The two of them shook their heads secretly. Luo Shueiyao did not dwell on it anymore and said, Shang Santian is about to enter the world. In fact, many people have already entered the world in advance. They're all aiming for the ghost ship in half a month. I know that Shang Santian has isolated itself from the world, causing some people to think that they're high and mighty. As soon as they enter the world, they rely on their martial power to do evil. She pursed her red lips, and there was a hint of disdain on her pretty face. Here, I have to express my apology to old Niu. Therefore, after old Niu brought people to suppress these people, most of the people of Shang Santian tacitly agreed. Niu Qingshan sneered when he heard that. No one was more furious than him. The Dragon Soul was responsible for preventing cultivators from rioting or acting above the law. However, the people of Shang Santian treated them like air the moment they entered the world. How could this be resolved with an apology? Tang Jianfeng sighed softly and said, The purpose of Shang Santian entering the world this time is only for the ghost ship or to establish a sect and accept new blood from the secular world. We don't want to stand against the secular world. Xia Fengfeng is right. Luo Shueiyao nodded and said, That's why our families discussed and decided to sit down with the cultivators of the secular world to discuss. It can be considered as seeking a balance. Yi Chen raised his brows. How do we balance it? Luo Shueiyao said, The secular world accepts Shang Santian into the world. Meanwhile, Shang Santian will restrain our own people and not allow them to cause trouble in the secular world. That's why we invited you here. She glanced at Yi Chen. As the China #1 and East Asia #1, your position in the Chinese cultivation world is like a supreme being. The Chinese cultivation world is led by you. You'll send a group of people to discuss with Shang Santian. Old Niu, what do you think? Yi Chen lifted his head to look at Niu Qingshan. In reality, it made no difference to him whether they talked or not. However, it was very important to Niu Qingshan because the Dragon Soul's duty was to restrain cultivators. It was difficult for the Dragon Soul to resist Shang Santian. There was no doubt about that. Niu Qingshan had obviously thought about it long ago. He said in a deep voice, I have no objections. However, Shang Santian must be sincere. I don't want to see the so-called negotiation be an unfair formality. Otherwise, it's fine if we don't talk. The 800 people of the Dragon Soul aren't afraid of bloodshed, nor are they afraid of death. At this point, a sharp killing intent erupted from his eyes. Even Tang Jianfeng and Luo Shueiyao's expressions changed slightly when they sensed the killing intent. Luo Shueiyao nodded and said, All right, we'll negotiate in 3 days. I'll inform you guys about the exact location and time. She stood up and left with Tang Jianfeng after saying that. Before she left, she turned around to look at Yi Chen. Yi Chen, I hope we won't be enemies. Until the two of them left. I can tell that the Luo family and the Tang family are decent, Niu Qingshan said. Moreover, I can feel that these two people have quite a high status in Shang Santian. Yi, it's your luck to be able to get to know them. Yi Chen smiled in a noncommittal manner. Luck? He never believed in such a thing. Moreover, when did he, Yi Chen, need to climb up the social ladder? Niu Qingshan shook his head secretly as if he had guessed what he was thinking. He said, "You've killed the people from the Bai and Duan families. These two families will definitely not let you off. Be careful. Also, that junior brother of mine will probably participate in 3 days." Guan Shangyue? Yi Chen's calm expression finally changed a little. Killing intent flashed through his eyes. Since that's the case, I have to go. I'll settle the old and new grudges together. P.S. There's still one more chapter to go. It might be late. Those who can't wait go to bed early. Thank you, everyone. Chapter 663. It was Saturday morning, the 8th day of the 10th lunar month. Yi Chen was still curled up in bed when he was woken up. "Daddy, wake up. Open the door. Daddy, it's snowing. It's snowing." His daughter, Meng Meng, was knocking on the door. Her voice was filled with excitement. The bedroom door that had just been replaced could not withstand her strength. "Is it snowing?" Yi Chen got up and walked to the window to take a look. As expected, snowflakes that were like goose feathers fluttered down. The window lattice was covered in a thick layer of snow, and the willow trees outside the window were covered in a layer of silver, like cedars. Yes, it was snowing. It meant that winter was here. Yi Chen could not help but smile warmly. It was the first time it had snowed in Lin City since he returned to Earth. It was also the first winter he had spent with his daughter. Meng Meng was still knocking on the door outside, and he could hear her complaining to Su Yuhan, "Mommy, I can't wake Daddy up. He's even lazier than me. Kick the door open if you can't wake him up." Su Yuhan's voice came faintly. Yi Chen walked over and opened the door immediately. The little girl was wearing a yellow down jacket, and her face was red from the cold. Even so, she was still in high spirits, and excitement was written all over her face. Qianqian, who was wearing a sky-blue down jacket, followed behind her. Compared to Meng Meng, Qianqian rolled up her sleeves, revealing a pair of thin and slender hands. When the little girl saw him, she smacked her lips and said, "Daddy, why did you only open the door now? I've been calling you for a long time." Yi Chen squatted down and pinched her red cheeks. "Daddy was thinking about where to bring my good daughter to play today." "Daddy, are we going out to play today?" The little girl's expression immediately brightened up, and she said with a beaming face, "Daddy, I want to build a snowman and have a snowball fight." Yi Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry. All right, I'll do whatever you want. But aren't you going to kiss me?" After saying that, he moved his face closer. "Daddy hasn't washed his face and hasn't shaved in a long time." The little girl was a little annoyed, but for the sake of her father building a snowman with her, she still leaned over and kissed Yi Chen's face. "Let's go out first. When Mom makes breakfast, let's go make a snowman, okay?" Yi Chen walked out with the two little girls. His parents, Yi Hai and Wu Lan, were sitting at the door looking at the snow outside. After taking Yi Chen's medicinal pills, the two of them did not have rheumatism. Yi Hai stared fixedly outside. Auspicious snow indicates a bountiful year. Yi Chen smiled and walked into the kitchen. Su Yuhan was wearing an apron while she kept putting noodles into the pot. The hot steam made her face red. Yi Chen hugged her from behind. Su Yuhan turned her head and slapped his hand with her chopstick. However, Yi Chen moved his mouth closer. She said in disdain, "Go wash your face and brush your teeth. You're already so old, yet you're acting like a kid." Yi Chen refused to let go. "Have you thought about how you're going to celebrate her birthday today?" "Of course." Su Yuhan rolled her eyes at him and peeked at the two little girls outside. She said, "This is what I plan to do. I'll celebrate my daughter's birthday tonight. I've already ordered a cake. You guys can do whatever you want during the day, and we'll go watch a movie as a family at night." "What movie?" Yi Chen was interested. To be honest, He had never been to a movie theater since he returned to Earth. Even Suyuhan was no exception. It had something to do with his experience and age. After all, they were no longer a couple. Suyuhan revealed a charming smile. It's snowing today, isn't it? So, let's go watch Wandering Planet. I heard from my friend that it's pretty good. Whatever you say. Yi Chen pecked her on the lips when she was not paying attention and ran into the bathroom as if he was escaping. In reality, after stepping into the cultivation world, not only could one abstain from eating, but one's body would also be spotless. However, since he was at home, he might as well do as the Romans do. After washing up, he heard his parents talking and laughing. He could not help but ask curiously, "Dad, Mom, what are you guys talking about?" Wu Lan was overjoyed. "Your dad said that it's Lidong the day after tomorrow. He was wondering if he should eat dog meat." Then, Meng Meng immediately said that she should eat cutie. Lidong marked the true arrival of winter. On this day, there were differences in the diets of the North and the South. Most people in the North ate dumplings around the Kong. As for the South, most people ate meat, especially dog meat. It was because dog meat could warm the kidneys and strengthen the yang. It could also keep out the cold. That was also the origin of the custom of eating dog meat in Lidong. Yi Chen glared at Meng Meng after hearing that. "Cutie used to suck up to you, but you actually want to eat his meat. What are you thinking? You have a bad conscience." Although Yi Chen had changed the way he addressed the Patriarch of Hell, the entire Yi family was still used to calling him Cutie. It was almost impossible for the Patriarch to get rid of that title. Seeing that his father was unhappy, the little girl stuck her tongue out playfully and said, "Cutie is bad. He ran away secretly and didn't even say goodbye to me. If I catch him, I'll definitely pluck his fur." "That's right, Xiaochen. Cutie has been gone for a long time. Where did he go?" Wu Lan asked from the side, her eyes filled with longing. Yi Chen comforted her. "Mom, Cutie has something to do outside. But don't worry. He'll be back soon." As they were talking, Suyuhan placed the noodles on the table. "Dad, Mom, it's time for breakfast." Yi Chen stood outside the house and glanced at the snow outside. He could not help but think of the Patriarch of Hell. I wonder how the Patriarch is. Meanwhile, thousands of kilometers away in the northeast, it was already covered in snow. In a peach blossom forest, a beautiful woman dressed in white was still trapped in a stone pavilion, just like before. She was still wearing the same white dress, and she was still playing the piano day after day. Almost when Yi Chen looked north, the lady in white seemed to have sensed something and said slowly, "Third brother, how's that guy at the back of the mountain?" A giant python dashed over and spoke in human language. "Big sister, that guy with the surname Huang has been inside for more than 10 days. He hasn't eaten or drunk, and he hasn't come out either." At this point, it seemed to have thought of something. "There's a formation at the back of the mountain. We can't enter, so we don't know if that guy is dead or alive." A gleam flashed in the white-bearded Myling's eyes. Interesting. Just as they were talking, the Patriarch of Hell's voice sounded in their minds. "Hey, sister, I'm hungry. Can you get your people to get me something to eat?" "Sister?" The giant white python was immediately enraged. Hu Myling was slightly stunned and said with a smile, "What do you want to eat?" The Patriarch of Hell's voice sounded again. "Cough, cough, dog food." I want the bran McFatty." Chapter 664. Tiannan Lin City. It was still snowing. In just 2 hours, the entire land had turned snow-white, and a thick layer of snow had accumulated on the ground. In the Yi family villa, 6 snowmen stood in the snow. 4 of them cheered from time to time. Yi Chen, whose head was covered in snow, took a puff of his cigarette. Subsequently, he brushed the snow off his body and looked at the snowman before him helplessly. The snowman was no more than a meter tall. It looked ugly. Its head was very small, and its belly was very big. Its so-called eyes and mouth looked like holes that were poked randomly by hand. Opposite him stood an unusually standard snowman. Its facial features were clear, and there was a carrot stuck in its nose. It wore a red dress and a hat on its head. Meng Meng, who had transformed into a little snowman, pointed at the fat snowman before Yi Chen in disdain. "Daddy, look at the snowman you made. It's so ugly. It's not as pretty as the one I made with Mommy." Cough, cough, cough. No matter how thick-skinned he was, Yi Chen could not help but blush. He could not help but cough and say, "How can an ugly snowman without Daddy make the snowman you made look better?" At this point, he said with a faint smile, "Moreover, didn't you notice that Daddy's snowman looks like a person? Who does it look like?" The little girl was instantly interested. Yi Chen said in all seriousness, "Of course, it looks like a troublemaker in my family. She looked like this fat snowman before she lost weight." The little girl was stunned. She then realized that Yi Chen was talking about her. She said angrily, "Daddy is bad. I'm not that fat and ugly." She grabbed a handful of snow and threw it at Yi Chen as she spoke. "Mommy, Daddy is bad. Let's beat him up together." "Yes, we must beat him up." Su Yuhan stood on the same side as her firmly. The mother and daughter kept throwing snowballs at Yi Chen. Soon, even Qianqian joined in. In an instant, the entire Yi family villa was filled with cheers. As Yi Hai and Wu Lan were old, they could only sit at the door and watch the few people playing outside with smiles on their faces. Wu Lan was touched by the scene and said sadly, "Old Yi, sometimes I wonder if this is a dream?" Yi Hai smoked his cigarette and knew what she meant. In the 5 years that Yi Chen had disappeared, they had almost lost all hope. If not for their granddaughter, Meng Meng, the two old men might not have the motivation to live anymore. Wu Lan secretly wiped her tears and said with a smile, "I really hope our family can continue like this. The younger generation has their own blessings. What's the point of thinking so much?" Yi Hai puffed out a smoke ring and looked at her with a puzzled look. "Didn't you secretly go for a physical examination yesterday? How is it?" As his voice fell, Wu Lan's expression immediately changed. She shook her head and said, "It's nothing. The doctor said that my stomach isn't very good. I just have to pay attention to my diet in the future." Soon, the sky darkened. The snow had also stopped. Even so, the snow on the roadside did not melt. When people stepped on it, it made a crunching sound. It was 8:30 in the evening. Yi Chen led Su Yuhan and the two little girls into a cinema nearby. Although the weather was cold, the cinema was packed. Fortunately, Su Yuhan had bought the tickets in advance. When they were waiting for the third round of the cinema to open, Meng Meng hugged Yi Chen's neck and pointed at the snack area. She said, "Daddy, I want popcorn. I want popcorn. It's caramel flavored. Stupid girl, you only know how to eat all day." Su Yuhan rolled her eyes at her angrily. She took out her change and went to the snack area to buy 2 buckets of popcorn. She gave one to the little girl and the other to Qianqian. Qianqian was at a loss. She looked at Yi Chen timidly and said, "Big brother, big sister, aren't you guys eating?" Su Yuhan subconsciously scratched her nose, afraid that she would think too much. "It's fine. Your big brother and I don't like to eat this." Just as she was speaking, a numb voice came from the side, "Give us 2 buckets of popcorn too." Su Yuhan looked over subconsciously and said in surprise, "Wei Wei, why are you here?" Yi Chen's eyes turned grim. Su Yuwei, who was dressed in a red suit, had arrived as well. She was talking to Su Yuhan. Next to her stood a handsome young man in a suit. It was Lin Han, who had fought Yi Chen previously. The two of them were holding hands intimately. "Sister, Lin Han and I went back to Lin City to do something. We had nothing to do, so we came to watch a movie." Su Yuwei smiled and noticed Yi Chen next to her. She clicked her tongue and said in surprise, "Yi Chen, it's not easy. I can't believe you thought of treating my sister to a movie." Yi Chen ignored her. On the other hand, Lin Han, who was next to her, nodded at Yi Chen and extended his hand. "Brother Yi, let's get to know each other again. I think there's a misunderstanding between us." Her face was filled with a gentle smile, as if the conflict between the two of them did not exist. Yi Chen ignored her. Forget it. I'm not worthy of you. Lin Han did not feel awkward and retracted his hand naturally. Su Yue, on the other hand, was indignant. Hey Yi Chen, Lin Han shook your hand out of kindness. What's with your attitude? Yi Chen ignored her directly. If it were not for Su Yuhan, he would have slapped Su Yue. Su Yue was part of the reason why Su Yuhan was captured by the Ghost Witch cult. If Su Yue had not brought Su Yuhan to some celebrity banquet, how would she have gotten to know that *T Master Tian? In reality, Master Tian was the Ghost Witch cult's guardian in disguise. He just wanted to trick Su Yuhan into going to Yaoshan's Puhong temple to offer incense so that they could take action. Seeing that he had ignored her, Su Yue's expression turned ugly. Su Yue's expression was a little unpleasant. After secretly scoffing, she said to Su Yuhan, Sister, which hall and which round are you guys in? Hall 5, the third scene, Su Yuhan said. Su Yue took out the movie tickets and was pleasantly surprised. What a coincidence. We're also in the third scene, but we're in Hall 2's Shanghai Fortress. At that moment, groups of people walked out of the theater. Let's go. Yi Chen glanced at Su Yuhan. He carried his daughter and walked into Hall 5, leaving Su Yue and Lin Han where they were. Su Yue could not help but snort coldly as she watched him leave. TSK, who are you trying to impress? Your brother-in-law is interesting. A strange arc flashed through Lin Han's eyes. Su Yue thought he was angry, so she hurriedly said, Lin Han, don't do anything rash. That's his temper. You can't beat him. Is that so? Lin Han licked his lips and said in a voice that only he could hear, We'll only know if we can beat him or not after we fight, right? Mad Southern Yi, I'm looking forward to the negotiation in 3 days. Chapter 665. The Wandering Earth was a sci-fi adaptation. In general, in order to save Earth, a father and son pair risked their lives in a place where they could not see each other. Even with the global scientific and technological power gathered, they could not change the fact that Earth would crash into Jupiter. Humans were facing the danger of being destroyed. At the critical moment, as a father, the astronaut was unwilling to abandon his family on Earth. He was unwilling to pilot the space station that was known as the spark of mankind to escape the solar system. Instead, he piloted the space station and crashed into Mars. He used his life to ignite the hydrogen on the surface of Jupiter, causing the shockwave that erupted to push Earth away from Jupiter, thus avoiding the collision between Earth and Jupiter. The movie did not give the audience amazing special effects. It gave them more of a shock to their souls. It allowed them to see the future of Earth. The mountains and rivers were no longer there. It was covered in snow and ice, and the atmosphere was filled with dust. It was desolation, sadness, and sorrow. An hour and a half later, the movie ended. Yi Chen walked out with Su Yuhan and the 2 little girls. Meng Meng, who was in his arms, could not stop crying. She would even wipe her snot on his shoulder from time to time. Even Su Yuhan was quietly wiping her tears with a tissue. Yi Chen looked around and realized that many people had tears in their eyes. He took the initiative to hand a tissue to the mother and daughter. Do you have to do this? How could they cry while watching a movie? Su Yuhan took the tissue and said while choking, I'm so touched. When the movie was about to end, astronaut Liu Peiqiang was in space. He held back his tears and said to his son, I'm sorry, I have to carry out another mission. This is the most important mission in my life. When the mother and daughter saw this scene, they couldn't help but burst into tears. Many people in the cinema also cried secretly. Yi Chen was also affected. Although the theme of the movie was sci-fi, it was not purely sci-fi. There was a father-son relationship in it. He was affected by the father-son relationship. Daddy, Meng Meng tugged at the corner of his shirt. The little fellow looked at him quietly. A few seconds later, tears flowed down her cheeks again. Daddy, will you die like that, Daddy? Will you die? Her seemingly silly words made Su Yuhan feel even more bitter. However, it made Su Yuhan feel even more bitter. Just one movie was enough to make her cry. She dared not imagine what would happen if Yi Chen died one day. How could she accept it? Yi Chen stretched his arm out and scratched Mingming's nose as the mother and daughter stared at him nervously. He said while smiling, "Silly girl, how can Daddy die? If Daddy dies, who will protect my daughter?" "Daddy, you can't die." The little girl wiped her tears and looked at Yi Chen with hope written all over her face. She said timidly, "Pinky promise?" "Okay, Pinky promise. Pinky swear, don't change for 100 years. Yi Chen smiled as well. He extended his finger and locked it with hers. Subsequently, he pulled the mother and daughter into his embrace. He swore in his heart, "Not only will I not die. None of you will die. Our whole family must be well." What they didn't notice was that Qianqian was quietly looking at the family of three. A trace of envy and sadness flashed in the depths of her clear eyes. Qianqian also wanted to have parents. Where were Qianqian's parents? At this moment, her thin and weak body was extremely lonely and desolate. It was as if she had turned back into the little girl wearing tattered shoes and clothes, walking timidly on the street. At this moment, the door to hall number 2 opened, and countless people walked out in an orderly manner. F***ck, what kind of rubbish is this? If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have come to watch this even if I lost the money. The publicity was as fierce as a tiger, but it turned out to be an idiot. Compared to the audience in hall number 5, most of the people in hall number 2 were cursing. Su Yuwei, who was walking at the front, cursed as she walked. "I'm so angry. A good sci-fi movie was made into a flirting movie. And that stupid deer, I'm begging you. Go back and hone your acting skills for a few more years." She only noticed Yi Chen and the rest at the door after she was done cursing. She glared at Yi Chen when she saw Su Yuhan's red eyes. "Yi, did you bully my sister?" Yi Chen glanced at her coldly. That glance scared her so much that she took a step back subconsciously. Subsequently, she felt a little embarrassed and took another step forward. However, one of her hands was tightly gripping Lin Han beside her. Lin Han stood in front of her immediately and looked into Yi Chen's eyes. "Brother Yi, Wei Wei is my girlfriend. I hope you can show her enough respect." "What if I don't?" Yi Chen said slowly. A mocking smirk appeared at the corner of Lin Han's lips. "Brother Yi, don't forget that I have a seat in the negotiation in 3 days." Yi Chen remained unmoved. So what? Seeing that there was a hidden meaning in their words, Su Yuwei subconsciously wanted to ask what the negotiation was about. However, she was interrupted by Su Yuhan. "No, I cried watching the movie." Su Yuhan shook her head and looked at her. "Wei Wei, how long will you be staying in Tianan this time? Do you want to go to your brother-in-law's house?" "I won't be staying for long, sister. I still have something to do, so I won't be going." Su Yuwei glanced at Yi Chen weakly and pulled Lin Han out first. Yi Chen looked at the two of them leaving in a meaningful manner. He then shook his head and said, "Let's go." Meanwhile, in a luxurious hotel in Lin City, Su Yuwei put down the bag in her hand and turned to Lin Han, who was behind her. "Lin Han, are you hiding something from me?" Lin Han smiled gently. "No, you're thinking too much." "No." Su Yuwei did not believe him. She looked at him doubtfully. "When we first met, you said that your family is in business, but I've never seen your parents. Even as friends, I've never seen you deal with any business matters." Lin Han's gaze turned grim. "You exchanged a punch with Yi Chen at the cocktail party." Su Yuwei continued. "Even someone as powerful as him was forced back by you. Where did you get such good skills? I don't believe that a rich second-generation heir can be so powerful." At this point she softened her tone and subconsciously held Lin Han's hand. "Lin Han, I know you really love me, but you can't hide everything from me because I won't feel safe." Lin Han picked up her fair and tender hand and looked at it carefully. He said without raising his head, "Before we talk about this, let me ask you, Do you think your brother-in-law is very powerful? Of course he's powerful, Su Yue said without even thinking. Although I don't like him, I have to admit that he's a terrifying person. Countless people have died in his hand. Lin Han remained expressionless until she finished speaking. After she finished speaking, he slowly raised his head, and a disdainful smile appeared at the corner of his lips. What if I tell you that it's easy for me to kill your brother-in-law? Chapter 666. What did you say? Su Yue's eyes widened in disbelief. Why, you're going to kill him? Are you crazy? No, I'm not crazy. The smile on Lin Han's lips did not fade. Aren't you curious about my identity? You've even asked around in private. Don't think I don't know. Su Yue was speechless. In fact, after confirming their relationship, Lin Han had not been honest with her. She had even hired a private detective to investigate Lin Han. Unfortunately, she found nothing. This person seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. Lin Han stood with his hands behind his back, his face filled with pride. I'm from Shang Santian. Perhaps you don't know what kind of existence Shang Santian is, but you only need to know that someone like Mad Southern Yi is nothing in the eyes of Shang Santian. At that moment, he was no longer as gentle as before. His body emitted a monstrous aura. To the secular world like you, Shang Santian is a transcendent force. It's a colossus, an ancient immortal realm. It holds the lives and deaths of mortals like you in our hands. Su Yue's body trembled. She had never seen such a side to Lin Han, who had always been gentle. She felt her mind go blank, and she could no longer hear what Lin Han was saying. A while later, Lin Han retracted his aura and returned to his gentle face. He caressed Su Yue's face gently. How is it? I didn't scare you, did I? In other words, you're also a cultivator. Su Yue stammered. And there are many powerhouses more powerful than Yi Chen in your place. Of course. A fierce gleam flashed through Lin Han's eyes. So, all you need to know is that I, Lin Han, am not afraid of the so-called East Asia #1, Mad Southern Yi. Su Yue snuggled in her embrace and said coquettishly, Then why didn't you tell me earlier? It's not like I can't accept it. It's great now. The misunderstanding has been resolved. At the end of her sentence, she looked out of the window with a gleam of pride in her eyes. Sister, your sister isn't any worse than you. You have Yi Chen. I have Lin Han. Yi family villa. After watching the movie, Yi Chen returned home with the two little girls. Su Yuhan was at the back. Meng Meng wrapped her arms around Yi Chen's neck as her warm breath hit his face. Daddy, why isn't Mommy coming home with us? Mommy has something to do. I'll be back soon. Yi Chen smiled mysteriously and said, Can I play a game with you? Let's close our eyes and count from 1 to 100 in our hearts. Whoever finishes counting first wins. Okay. The little fellow nodded like a chick pecking at rice. Daddy, if I win, will there be a reward? Yes, a very big gift. Yi Chen shouted to begin after saying that. The little girl closed her eyes immediately and began counting quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yi Hai and Wu Lan nodded in understanding. You're not allowed to open your eyes. Whoever opens their eyes before I finish shouting will be considered the loser, and the loser will be punished. He walked over and hung up all the lanterns. He then sent Su Yuhan a text message after he was done. Thank you, Yi Chen said while holding back his laughter. 71, 72. When the little girl shouted, Su Yuhan walked in with a cake and placed it on the table quietly. 98, 99. The little girl opened her eyes when she counted to 100. At the same time, the lights in the house were switched off at the same time. The little girl saw colorful lanterns flashing when she opened her eyes. The most attractive thing was that she saw a 5-tiered cake on the table before her with 5 candles on it. Meanwhile, there were a few big words written in cream on the cake. Happy 5th birthday to my baby daughter. The little girl was confused all of a sudden and could not react at the moment. Mommy, is it your birthday today? It's such a big cake. But it's your birthday today. Seeing that she could not stop gulping, Yi-Chen could not help but stretch his arm out to pinch her cheeks. Today is my baby's 5th birthday. It's also the first birthday I'm celebrating for you. I wish you a happy birthday and a happy future. Su Yuhan picked her up and kissed her on the cheek. She said while smiling, Baby, Mommy wishes you a happy birthday. Meng Meng, Grandpa wishes you a happy birthday too. Yi Hai took out a thick red envelope and handed it over. He could not help but say a string of English words. Ha 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 ha, Grandma wishes you a happy birthday too. Wu Lan handed her a red envelope. The two old men's faces were full of smiles. Qian was stunned for a moment before she took out 2 white beads. They were only the size of beans and were crystal clear. Sister Meng Meng, B sister wishes you a happy birthday. The little girl was stunned. A few seconds later, she said timidly, It's my birthday? I have a birthday too? I can celebrate my birthday too. I'm so happy. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you, Mommy. Thank you, Grandpa and Grandma. Thank you, Sister Qian. The little girl jumped around in the house after she snapped back to her senses. She started kissing Yi-Chen's face one by one. Her little face was flushed with excitement. Seeing that, Su Yuhan's eyes turned red. Su Yuhan's eyes reddened, and she turned her head away immediately. She almost cried. It was the first birthday that Yi-Chen celebrated for his daughter. It was also the first birthday that she, as a mother, had given her daughter. Yi-Chen seemed to have guessed her feelings. He extended his hand and patted her shoulder. Subsequently, he said to the little girl, Make a wish and then we'll eat cake. The little girl pressed her palms together and faced the candlelight. She closed her watery eyes and mumbled, My wish is that Daddy, Mommy, Grandpa, Grandma, and Sister Qian. Yi-Chen said for the first time in his life, You can't say your wish out loud. You have to say it in your heart. Otherwise, it won't work. I see, the little guy murmured and closed his eyes again. 10 seconds later, he opened his eyes and blew out the 5 candles in front of him. Let's eat cake. Yi-Chen smiled and picked up the knife and fork to cut it into 2 portions. Unexpectedly, the little girl staggered to Yi Hai and Wu Lan with 2 portions of cake. She knelt down in front of everyone and said in a childish voice, Grandpa, Grandma, thank you for your hard work. You guys eat first. Silly child, get up. The ground is cold. Yi Hai and Wu Lan were so excited that they almost cried. How could they not be happy that their precious granddaughter was so sensible? Yi-Chen secretly nodded when he saw that. He was even happier now. All right, it's all yours and Qian's now. Tell Daddy, which one do you want? The little girl pointed. Daddy, I want the strawberries on the top. Qian said very sensibly, Big brother, give the strawberries to Sister Meng Meng. I'll only eat cream. Both. Yi-Chen cut a portion for the 2 little girls fairly. The 2 of them were enjoying the food to their heart's content. The family played until late at night before they stopped. The next morning, Yi-Chen received a call from Niu Qingshan. The time and venue for the negotiation have been set. It'll be 9 p.m. tonight at Yang City International Hotel. Yi-Chen sat on the sofa and stretched. A cold ripple appeared in his calm eyes. Is it finally here? P.S. Chapter 4. Today's update is over. I'll continue tomorrow. Thank you for your support. Please give me some tickets. Thank you. Chapter 667. It was past 6 that night. Yi-Chen boarded the last flight to Yang City. However, he was not alone this time. Yang Tian and Lin Tai followed behind him. He initially wanted to ride his sword to Yang City alone. Unexpectedly, Yang Tian and Lin Tai insisted on participating in the negotiation with him. Clearly, the 2 of them realized what kind of opponent Yi-Chen was facing this time, so they were worried. Yi-Chen had no choice but to get them to buy the plane tickets. After the group boarded the plane and found their seats, Yang Tian looked around and could not help but say in a low voice, Old Yi, I've been thinking along the way. Since it's a negotiation, Why did the other party choose a hotel as the venue? Lin Tai said in a deep voice, "This is clearly a hongmen banquet. There's nothing good about it." The two of them had already learned about the general content of the negotiation from Yi Chen. To them, if Shang Santian was sincere, they should consciously restrain their own people instead of negotiating. Yi Chen smiled lightly with a sharp gaze. It doesn't matter. How could he not know that this was a hongmen banquet? But so what? It was time for him to settle the score with Guan Shanyue. Lin Tai said worriedly, "My lord, don't eat or drink anything when we get there. Who knows if these people will use any despicable method." He had been in the pugilistic world for many years, so he naturally knew what kind of tricks there were in the so-called banquet. It was either poisoning the food or ambushing the assassins, and then smashing the cups as a signal. Yi Chen shook his head, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. At that moment, a beautiful figure walked over from the cabin entrance. Behind her was a young man in black. Yi Chen's expression turned grim when he saw the two of them. Yang Tian noticed the change in his expression and asked, "Old Yi, what's wrong?" Before Yi Chen could speak, the beautiful figure glanced at him subconsciously when she passed by him. She then said in surprise, "Why is it you again? Who else could it be but Su Yue?" Today, she was wearing a plain dress with a waistband. She looked extremely dignified and elegant. Coupled with her exquisite face, she was like a peacock, instantly surpassing all the women in the cabin. Many of the men in the cabin also turned to look at her. Lin Han, who was standing behind him, was elegant like a gentleman, attracting the gazes of many women. After seeing Yi Chen, Lin Han was not surprised at all. Yi Chen said calmly, "Why can't it be me?" Su Yue seemed to have recalled something. "I know. You must be going to participate in that negotiation." "Yi, how dare you? That has nothing to do with you," Yi Chen said without changing his expression. Su Yue snorted coldly, then led Lin Han to the back. As soon as she left, Yang Tian asked curiously, "Old Yi, who's that? She's quite pretty, but her tone is a little harsh." "She should be my lord's sister-in-law," Lin Tai said uncertainly. Yi Chen smiled without saying anything. Yang Tian's eyes widened instantly. He was shocked. "Holy sh*t, so she's Yuhan's biological sister? She's actually so beautiful." Yi Chen ignored him and closed his eyes to rest. More than 10 minutes after the plane took off, a cold voice came into his ears. "You, get up. I have something to say to Yi Chen." As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw Su Yue walking over. She was looking at Yang Tian next to him expressionlessly. Oh, okay. Yang Tian did not know that the two of them had a bad relationship. After being stunned for a moment, he subconsciously stood up and gave his seat to her. There was no need for her to speak. Lin Tai stood up and went to the washroom with Yang Tian. At that moment, only Yi Chen and Su Yue were left. Su Yue glanced at him and sat next to him. She said coldly, "Don't you know who you're going to face this time?" "So what?" Yi Chen was a little impatient. Su Yue said, "Lin Han has already told me about Shang Santian. It's far more terrifying than you can imagine. Lin Han also told me that you killed people from the Duan and Bai families of Shang Santian. The Bai and Duan families will be attending this time. How dare you go?" She looked at Yi Chen as she said, "I admit that you're very powerful, but can you not be so arrogant? Can you please spare a thought for my sister and me?" However, Yi Chen remained expressionless. It was as if he did not hear anything. "Yi Chen, there's always someone better than you. Is it really that hard to admit that you're inferior to others?" Su Yue suppressed her anger and said, "You should apologize to Shang Santian at a time like this. Perhaps you can save your life." After saying that, she seemed to have thought of something and subconsciously glanced at Lin Han in the distance. She turned around and said, "Lin Han is also from Shang Santian. I can get him to put in a good word for you in front of Shang Santian. Of course, the premise is that you have to apologize to Lin Han first." She pursed her red lips. You didn't give Lin Han any face previously. To be honest, he was very angry. The reason why he didn't flare up was purely because of me. Yi Chen said without even lifting his head, Are you done? If you're done, then leave. Su Yue was furious. She stomped her feet and left after saying that, Do whatever you want. If it weren't for my sister and Meng Meng, I wouldn't care about your life or death. Not long after she left, Lin Tai and Yang Tian returned one after another. Seeing that Su Yue left in a hurry, they did not dare ask further. At the back of the cabin, after Su Yuhan returned to her seat, she told Lin Han, who was next to her, what she had said to Yi Chen. She looked extremely furious after saying that. This egomaniac is really infuriating. He treats my kindness as malice. A cold gleam flashed through Lin Han's eyes, but he remained calm and said, Some people only live in their own world, so they don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. They only know regret after experiencing the cruel reality. A trace of pity flashed across Su Yue's face when she heard that. She subconsciously held his hand. Lin Han, can you promise me that you can plead with the people from Shang Santian not to kill Yi Chen? Although she did not like Yi Chen, she knew that he was her brother-in-law after all. He was also the closest person to her sister, Su Yuhan. I can't guarantee that. Lin Han frowned awkwardly. Yi Chen killed people from the Bai and Duan families of Shang Santian. The Bai and Duan families will definitely not let him go. No one in China can protect him. After noticing Su Yue's pleading gaze, he sighed softly and said, Forget it. I'll say a few words for him when the time comes. That was what he said. However, his eyes were filled with fierceness. Su Yue, who was completely unaware, hugged his arm tightly in gratitude. Thank you. Yi Chen will definitely be very grateful to you when the time comes. Chapter 668. Yang City International Airport. Dozens of figures with powerful auras stood outside the exit, staring at the terminal with solemn expressions, afraid of missing a single detail. Such a huge lineup. This naturally caused many passers-by to turn their heads to look over. When they saw the long line of cars parked by the side of the road, their hearts could not help but tremble. Luxury cars. All of them were luxurious cars. There were more than 100 of them. Countless people were speechless. Who exactly is descending? How could they cause such a huge commotion? Even the President of America and Korea wouldn't be so exaggerated. Facing the gazes of the passers-by, Yan Nanfei, who had a mustache, said in a deep voice, Old Han, are you sure Supreme Yi is flying at 8:30 a.m.? Han Qinhu, who was dressed in a Chinese tunic suit, nodded slightly and said, Dragon's soul told me that. It should be true. As the two of them were talking, they noticed a middle-aged man frowning. Yan Nanfei immediately smiled and said, Old Dai, what's going on? We haven't seen each other for decades, and you're keeping a straight face and not saying a word? Everyone immediately looked at the middle-aged man. Dai Tinglu shook his head slightly and said, I'm thinking about the many situations that we might face in tonight's negotiation. For example, if the negotiation fails and Shang Santian is fearless, how can the Chinese cultivation world contend against them? As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd fell silent. Everyone present was a powerhouse from the Chinese cultivation world. The reason why they had put aside their past grudges and gathered here today was to deal with Shang Santian's entry into the world. If what Dai Tinglu said was true, if the negotiation failed, Shang Santian would continue to indulge their own people. What should they do then? Seemingly sensing that the atmosphere was a little tense, Pang Yuanqing, who was in the crowd, said in a deep voice, Everyone, there's no need to be so anxious. Since Shang Santian has agreed to negotiate, they must have a certain level of sincerity. Moreover, there's still Supreme Yi before us. Everyone could not help but be shocked when they heard that. That's right, there's still Supreme Yi. As the number one person in China and East Asia, his strength could be said to be at the peak of the Chinese cultivation world. He had repeatedly made a name for himself. No matter how powerful Shang Santian was, they would have some reservations, right? While they were talking, several figures walked out of the terminal, led by Su Yuwei. Su Yuwei couldn't help but jump in fright when she saw such a big formation outside. She excitedly asked Lin Han, "Are these people here to welcome you?" Even Lin Han was shocked. This was because he could tell at a glance that the people in front of him were all martial Dao masters. There were no exceptions. Some of them were even close to becoming martial venerables. Before he could say anything, Peng Yuanqing and the others bowed and cupped their fists. "Greetings, Supreme Yi." Bang bang bang. "Greetings, Supreme Exalt Yi." "Greetings, Supreme Exalt Yi." The dozens of people behind them also bowed and said in unison. Their voices were like muffled thunder. This scene immediately shocked countless people. Even Su Yuwei was no exception. Just as she was secretly guessing who Supreme Yi was, a voice suddenly rang out. A faint voice came from behind him. "There's no need to stand on ceremony, everyone." Yi Chen walked out slowly with Lin Tai and Yang Tian. Su Yuwei's beautiful eyes widened instantly. She could not accept it. "He's Supreme Yi? So many people are here to welcome him?" Lin Han's gaze was terrifyingly grim. When Yi Chen got closer, Yan Nanfei and the rest took a step forward and said while cupping their fists again, "Supreme Yi, we from the Chinese cultivation world have finally waited for you. The car has been arranged for you. We can go to the Yang City International Hotel now." Yi Chen nodded lightly and followed him into a Pagani. He did not even look at Su Yuhan and Yang Tian during the entire process. Su Yuwei only snapped out of her daze after watching the convoy leave. She said in disbelief, "Why is he supported by so many people?" To her, Yi Chen was a murderous demon. Not only did he destroy the Su family, but there were countless people who died in his hands. Logically speaking, such a person should have enemies all over the world. Since when did he have such a huge appeal? "They're just a bunch of useless people." Lin Han smirked coldly and led Su Yuwei away. In the car heading to the Yang City International Hotel, Yi Chen said, "Where's Yang Junlin?" Before this, Yang Junlin was originally ranked number 1 on the Heaven Leaderboard. Ever since Yi Chen was ranked number 1 on the Heaven Leaderboard, Yang Junlin naturally fell to number 2. However, Yang Junlin did not care about that. Yan Nanfei said with a smile, "Someone from Shang Santian is here. Junlin is greeting them, so he couldn't come to welcome you, Supreme Yi." At this point, he added, "Supreme Yi might not know this, but Junlin is actually a branch disciple of the Tong family of Shang Santian. However, because his mother is from the secular world, the Tong family did not acknowledge him in the early years, and Junlin took his mother's surname, Yang." Yi Chen came to a realization. It was no wonder Yang Junlin told him about Shang Santian after he killed Bai Zhanyuan back then. At this moment, Dai Tinglu, who had been silent since he got into the car, looked at him and suddenly said, "What do you plan to do with my daughter Xiu?" "What?" Yi Chen was confused. Dai Tinglu snorted coldly and said, "You left Korea without saying goodbye last time. Xiu has been blaming me ever since she returned home. She said that I offended you, so I neglected her." Yi Chen was a little stunned when he heard that. "Mr. Dai, I've never had any grudges with you. I'm also friends with Ms. Dai. How did I offend her? There's no such thing as neglect." "You and Xiu are just friends?" Dai Tinglu frowned and seemed a little displeased. "I don't believe you don't understand Xiu's thoughts. Do you think my daughter isn't worthy of you?" He sensed that the atmosphere was a little cold. Yan Nanfei smiled and said, "Old Dai, are you in such a hurry to marry your daughter to Supreme Yi? I forgot to tell you that Supreme Yi has a family. Your daughter can only be a concubine at most." When Dai Tinglu heard that, his cold expression gradually eased up a little. He said angrily, "How can my daughter be someone else's concubine? Don't mention this again." "Ah." Peng Yuanqing and Yan Nanfei looked at each other and laughed out loud. Yi Chen shook his head too. After a while, Dai Tinglu looked at Yi Chen and said in a deep voice, "What do you think about the negotiation with Shang Santian?" The interior of the car became quiet. Yi Chen said while smiling lightly, "What kind of people do you guys think Shang Santian is? Is it an immortal or a god?" "Of course it's humans," Dai Tinglu said without even thinking. A few seconds later, he added, "It's a group of people with 1,000 years of martial arts heritage. Their strength and heritage are beyond our imagination. Since you are all mortals, why are you so high and mighty?" Yi Chen interrupted him and glanced at the people in the car one by one. "Everyone, being weak isn't the biggest sin. Being weak and not having the guts to fight, not having the courage to fight to become stronger, and being willing to be weak is the biggest sin." As his voice fell, everyone in the carriage was moved, and a pensive look appeared on their faces. Pang Yuanqing said hesitantly, "I heard that Supreme Yi killed many people from Shang Santian? What will you do if Shang Santian makes things difficult for you during this negotiation?" Yi Chen spread out his right hand slowly and said coldly, "If the pugilistic world really wants to drag me into this, I can only settle this storm with my own hands." Chapter 669. Half an hour later, the car successfully arrived at the Yang City International Hotel. Although the Yang City International Hotel looked normal from the outside, it was actually heavily guarded. Even a fly could not fly in. Countless cultivators in black were hiding in every corner, paying attention to the situation around the hotel at all times to prevent anyone from causing trouble. Yi Chen walked out of the car slowly. He naturally saw everything after his divine consciousness spread out. A strange look flashed across his eyes. This was because he had sensed countless powerful auras around this small hotel. Most of them were martial Dao masters and illuminating god experts. This scene was even grander than what he had experienced on Yaoshan. However, when he thought about how today was the day of negotiation between Shang Santian and the secular world, he felt relieved. At this moment, a member of the Dragon Soul walked over quickly. "Supreme Yi, Old Nyo and the rest have been waiting inside for a long time." Yi Chen nodded lightly. Just when he was about to lead everyone in, another car drove over. Subsequently, a man and a woman walked out of the car. Both of them were dressed in ancient clothes and were under 30 years old. The woman in the lead was dressed in a white dress. Her appearance was astonishing, but her aura was extremely cold. Behind her was a slightly handsome young man in ancient clothes. It was Ouyang Qing and Du Ming, whom Yi Chen had seen outside the Gu family villa when he was chasing after Duan Kursen. Following their appearance, the pupils of Dai Tinglu and the rest behind Yi Chen constricted. "People from Shang Santian." Ouyang Qing glanced at Dai Tinglu and the rest. Eventually, her gaze landed on Yi Chen. She pursed her red lips. "I didn't expect Mr. Yi to be here today." Du Ming, who was next to her, ignored Dai Tinglu and the rest. He looked at Yi Chen with a forced smile. "You killed the people from the Duan family, Bai family, and Huang family, yet you still dare to come. I have to say that you're very brave." "Thank you for the compliment," Yi Chen said calmly and was about to enter. "Wait." Du Ming suddenly spoke and said slowly, "Yi Chen, I heard that you're quite impressive in Japan. You defeated the Japanese sword saint and killed the 4 gods. Even Fire Emperor and Titan were no match for you." He seemed to be praising him, but his tone was filled with disdain. "I admit that I underestimated you earlier. However, if you think that Shang Santian is as useless as the Japanese sword saint, then you're gravely mistaken." Yi Chen frowned. "What do you want?" "It's simple." Du Ming had his hands behind his back as he smiled proudly. "Out of consideration that your natural talent isn't bad, so long as you're willing to submit to me, Du Ming, today, I can plead on your behalf and protect your life." He looked at Yi Chen after saying that. "What do you think? Crazy?" Yi Chen chuckled and turned around to lead them into the hotel. Yi Chen turned around and led him into the hotel. Initially, He thought that Yi Chen would definitely agree to it for the sake of his life after he suggested taking Yi Chen in as his subordinate. Never had he thought that Yi Chen would call him a lunatic. At this moment, an indifferent voice sounded out, "Haha, I never expected that the dignified Du clan's Du Ming would have a time when someone doesn't give him face." Du Ming looked towards the source of the voice and saw a young man dressed in black walking over slowly with a tall woman in tow. His gaze lingered on the tall woman for a few moments before he finally sneered and said, "Lin Han, I was wondering why I couldn't see you as soon as you entered the world. So you went to pick up girls." Picking up girls. Su Yue blushed. If someone else had said that to her, she would have flared up long ago. However, she did not dare to face the person in front of her because the person who could mock Lin Han was from Shang Santian. Lin Han smiled lightly in the face of Du Ming's sarcasm. He looked at Yi Chen's back meaningfully. Why? Brother Du also failed to recruit this person? Recruitment? Du Ming smiled disdainfully. He's just an ant from the secular world. What's there to talk about recruiting? The reason I'm talking to him is purely because I'm in a good mood and want to keep a dog by my side so that I can beat and scold him from time to time. He sensed the meaning behind Lin Han's words and said, "Could it be that he refused your good intentions as well?" Refuse? Lin Han smiled faintly. Compared to Brother Du, I'm actually a little embarrassed because this person is simply looking down on me. It seems that this dog's temperament is as tough as the rumors say. I wonder if his bones are as tough as the rumors. Du Ming gave him a meaningful look. Lin Han looked at him and said with a smile, "Whether or not your bones are hard, we'll only know after a few blows." Su Yue had no idea what they were talking about. She kept looking around as if she was looking for someone. On the other hand, Ouyang Qing secretly shook her head as she watched Yi Chen leave. There was sympathy in her beautiful eyes. "Before he left, old Master Gu asked me many times to help you. I thought you were just an ordinary madman. Who would have thought that he would be so arrogant? He even dared to ignore Du Ming and the genius of the Lin family, Lin Han. No one in China can save you now." Inside the hotel, Yi Chen walked at the front while Lin Tai and Yang Tian followed closely behind. Meanwhile, Dai Tinglu and the rest followed closely behind with solemn expressions. Right at this moment, a terrifying force swept over from the side. The force turned into a yellow fist force in the air and charged at Yi Chen. "Who is it? How dare you?" Yang Tian and Lin Tai's expressions changed. They leaped to Yi Chen's front immediately and charged at the terrifying fist force. Bang bang, as two grunts were heard, Yang Tian and Lin Tai's bodies were thrown back hard. Yi Chen extended his hand and caught them. Even so, both of them spat a mouthful of blood at the same time. Their faces were extremely pale, and it was obvious that they were severely injured. Yang Tian said in shock, "Old Yi, the other party is very powerful." The two of them had joined forces, but they were still severely injured by the other party. This was more than just an ordinary level of power. Yi Chen's gaze was slightly cold as he lifted his eyes and looked straight at the end of the corridor. A young man in his 20s walked over slowly. The young man's face was sinister, and there was a strange smile on his lips. Every step he took, ripples would appear on the ground. An extremely violent aura was stirred up from the ripples. It swept towards Yi Chen and the rest like a stormy wave. Boom! Apart from Yi Chen, Dai Tinglu and the rest of the people behind him took a step back and spat blood from their mouths. Some of them were even forced to kneel on the ground by the aura. At this moment, everyone's faces were filled with shock. Even Dai Tinglu, who had always been extremely confident, was no exception. Powerful. The young man in front of him was too powerful. When the young man saw this scene, a mocking smile appeared at the corner of his lips. Is this the so-called powerhouse of the secular world? He can't even withstand a single blow. The moment that was said, Dai Tinglu and the rest flew into a rage. They glared at him, but their hearts were filled with bitterness. They could not even withstand the other party's aura. The young man stared at Yi Chen. He suddenly stopped when he was less than a step away from Yi Chen. Are you the so-called mad Southern Yi? Chapter 670. So what if I am? Yi Chen looked into his eyes. His gaze was as cold as a knife. The young man lowered his head and looked at his 10 fingers. He said lightly, to be able to remain calm under my pressure, you're quite capable. No wonder you could kill Duan Hong and the other 2 pieces of trash. Before Yi Chen could speak, he lifted his head slowly and took a step forward. He was almost touching Yi Chen's face as he said, My name is Duan Feng. Please remember my name because you'll die in my hands. With that, he turned around and was about to leave when an extremely cold voice rang out, Did I allow you to leave? Duan Feng stopped slowly when he heard that. He turned around and looked at Yi Chen arrogantly. Are you in such a hurry to reincarnate? Yi Chen scoffed. Just when he was about to attack, Dai Tinglu, who was behind him, suddenly pulled him back and said in a deep voice, Don't be rash. At the same time, Yan Nanfei and the rest pleaded, That's right, Mr. Yi. You mustn't be rash at a time like this. They were humiliated like this. How could they not be angry? However, they had no choice but to lower their heads under the eaves. Moreover, today's matter concerned whether Shang Santian and the secular world could coexist. If they fell out over such a small matter, the consequences would be great. Dai Tinglu was still holding Yi Chen's hand tightly. There was a pleading look in his eyes. Listen to me. You mustn't. Ha ha, at least you know what's good for you. Duan Feng became more and more smug. After a long laugh, he disappeared from the corridor. The reverberating laughter seemed to be mocking Yi Chen and the rest. At that moment, Niu Qingshan walked over quickly with his men. He frowned and said, What happened? Dai Tinglu immediately told him what had happened. What a bastard! Niu Qingshan was furious after hearing that. However, he still looked at Yi Chen. You were right not to attack. They're forcing you to attack. That way they'll have an excuse to attack. You don't have to be angry. Why should I be angry? Yi Chen smirked coldly. His eyes were filled with killing intent, because this person is already a dead man in my eyes. Let's go. Everyone's here. Niu Qingshan thought he was venting his anger. He sighed and led his men into the elevator. He pressed the button to the 18th floor. After what had happened earlier, everyone's mood was somewhat gloomy. They had prided themselves on being powerful experts, but with Duan Feng's appearance, they discovered that they were extremely weak. It also made them truly realize how powerful Shang Santian was. Yan Nanfei could not help but ask the question on everyone's mind, Elder Niu, who was that Duan Feng? Meeting everyone's gaze, Niu Qingshan said seriously, A total of 9 ancient martial families from Shang Santian have come for this negotiation. As soon as these words came out, everyone's expression immediately changed. So many ancient martial arts families from Shang Santian had come in one go. Meanwhile, there were only a few dozen people from the Chinese cultivation world. This negotiation was destined to be unfair. They are the Bai family, Shao family, Lin family, Duan family, Du family, Huang family, Tang family, Luo family, and Lu family. Niu Qingshan took a deep breath in and said confidently, that Duan Feng from earlier represented the Duan family to participate in the negotiation. It's said that he's only 24 years old, and his strength is extremely terrifying. Even in the Duan family, he's a genius among the younger generation. Even Yi Chen's eyes could not help but narrow when he heard that. Duan Feng injured Dai Tinglu and the rest with his aura alone. He was only a disciple of the younger generation. As if sensing everyone's worry, Niu Qingshan smiled and said, However, you guys don't have to worry too much. This time, China has also sent quite a number of people, such as the Dragon Soul, the Heavenly Palace, and even the military. Moreover, there are some reasonable people among the 9 great families. Only then did everyone's expressions improve a little. Soon, the elevator reached the 18th floor. After the elevator door opened, Niu Qingshan seemed to have thought of something and lifted his head to look at Yi Chen. Yi, today's matter is of great importance. Remember not to be rash, and you can't anger the people of Shang Santian. I know what I'm doing, Yi Chen replied ambiguously. Niu Qingshan nodded and led everyone out of the elevator. What greeted their eyes was a hall that covered an area of more than 300 square meters. There were 2 gray-robed old men guarding the entrance of the hall. The 2 of them had their eyes closed as if they were sleeping soundly. However, the power that was faintly emitted from within caused Dai Tinglu and the rest to be shocked. Niu Qingshan walked over and said a few words to the 2 of them before gesturing for everyone to enter. When Yi Chen passed by the 2 of them, one of the old men suddenly opened his eyes and said, "You're Mad Southern Yi?" Yi Chen's sharp gaze shot straight at him. "I'm from the Huang family. You killed my family's descendant, Huang Yin. I need you to give me an explanation after this." After saying that, the old man closed his eyes again. Obviously, he was unwilling to accept any explanation. "All right, I'll definitely give you an explanation." Yi Chen squinted and walked into the hall. A huge long circular table was placed in the middle of the hall. Whether it was the tables, chairs, or the red carpet, they were all antique. There were more than 10 people sitting on the long circular table. Almost the moment Yi Chen entered, countless gazes gathered in the hall. Their gazes were like blades that pressed down on Dai Tinglu and the rest, causing their minds to be in a mess. Someone could not withstand the invisible pressure and turned around to run back. I'm not participating. A hint of anger flashed through Niu Qingshan's eyes. Only Yi Chen remained unmoved. He swept his gaze across the table and realized that most of them were staring at him. Duan Feng was sitting on the upper right. When he noticed Yi Chen's gaze sweeping over, he made a gesture of slitting his neck. There was also a long-haired young man in black who looked at him with a gaze as sharp as an eagle's. A sinister smile appeared at the corner of his lips. "Is this Mad Southern Yi?" An honest-looking young man looked at Yi Chen. He could not help but nod when he saw that Yi Chen was neither servile nor overbearing under the crowd's aura. "You have guts and spirit. Looks like the rumors are true. Lu Qing, you're a member of the Lu family after all. Who judges people by their aura? What if he's just putting on a strong front?" A woman with freckles on her face scoffed and looked at Yi Chen in disdain. "I, by Xin, have seen many people like him. He's just pretending to be calm." "That's right. How can a piece of trash, who hasn't even become a martial venerable, be called the China #1? Another young man with a cold expression chuckled. "Enough." At this moment, a cold voice was heard. It was Luo Shuiyao, who was sitting in the middle, who spoke. She glanced at everyone coldly and said to Yi Chen, "Yi Chen, bring your men and sit down." Yi Chen nodded lightly. He found an empty seat that he had prepared beforehand and sat down under everyone's gaze. His expression was as majestic as a mountain. Luo Shuiyao and Tang Jianfeng looked at each other and nodded secretly. Clearly, Yi Chen's performance had exceeded their expectations. A few seconds later, Luo Shuiyao stood up and pointed at the honest young man beside her. She introduced, "This is Lu Qing, from the Lu family of Shang Santian." The man called Lu Qing nodded lightly at Yi Chen and smiled kindly. "I've long heard of Mad Southern Ye's name. Now that I've met you today, you really live up to your reputation." Yi Chen responded with a smile. At that moment, 4 figures walked in from outside. They were Lin Han, Su Yuwei, Du Ming, and Ouyang Qing. After they took their seats, Luo Shuiyao introduced them one by one. "This is Xiao Yang from the Xiao family, a member of the Xiao family of Shang Santian." This is, however, compared to Lu Qing, the others treated Yi Chen coldly. Some of them did not hide their hostility at all. When she introduced Bai Xian from the Bai family, Bai Xian's gaze was threatening. "Mad Southern Yi, you're so capable. You actually dared to kill people from my Bai family, and you even killed 2 of them in a row." Yi Chen smiled lightly. Someone insisted on trying my blade. Of course, I'll let them have their way. You, by Xian, flew into a rage. Enough. Luo Shuiyao berated. She turned to look at the last young man in black and introduced. This is the palace master of your heavenly palace, Guan Shanyue. Yi Chen lifted his head and looked over. Chapter 4, 4 chapters released in a row. Today's update is complete. We will continue tomorrow. Thank you for your support. Asking for monthly votes and recommendation vote. Chapter 671. This is the palace master of China's heavenly palace, Guan Shanyue. Following Luo Shuiyao's words, Yi Chen lifted his head and looked over. Yi Chen lifted his head and looked over. He saw a young man sitting in the middle at the bottom right. The young man was dressed in black. He had long black hair and a handsome face. Although he was a young man, his sideburns were already white. Sensing his gaze, the young man lifted his eyes to meet Yi Chen's eyes. There was a faint smile on his face. I've long heard that China has a once-in-a-century genius. Now that I've met you today, you're indeed extraordinary. China has a successor. His gaze was very gentle. It gave people a sense of intimacy. Yi Chen scoffed secretly and said slowly, Rumor has it that the palace master of Heavenly Palace, Guan Shanyue, is elusive. He's a legend among the younger generation in China's cultivation world 50 years ago. I'm itching for a fight today. I wonder if Palace Master Guan can teach me a thing or two. Following his words, everyone in the hall was stunned. Everyone in the hall was startled. They even thought that they had heard wrongly. Who was Guan Shanyue? Although he looked rather young, he was only a few years younger than the Dragon King, Niu Qingshan, who was only 100 years old. Most importantly, he was a martial arts legend among the younger generation in China 50 years ago. At that time, he had suppressed the heroes of the world on Mount Hua and became a god in one battle. Although 50 years had passed, no one dared to underestimate him. Even the arrogant people of Shang Santian were no exception. However, Yi Chen had taken the initiative to challenge him. Therefore, as soon as Yi Chen said that, the people from Shang Santian looked at each other. They saw surprise in each other's eyes, but most of them were disdain. For example, Lin Han and Du Ming. To them, Yi Chen was overestimating himself by challenging Guan Shanyue. Of course, they were happy to see Yi Chen infuriate Guan Shanyue and get killed. Guan Shanyue's gentle face froze slightly when he heard that. His gaze at Yi Chen turned cold all of a sudden. At that moment, the temperature in the hall dropped. The expressions of Dai, Tinglu and the rest changed. They kept signaling Yi Chen with their eyes. Niu Qingshan and Luo Shuiyao frowned. Just as the two of them were about to speak to ease the atmosphere, a cold voice suddenly sounded in the hall. Nonsense. The next moment, a lady in a plain dress stood out from the side. She walked to Yi Chen and glared at him angrily. Yi Chen, what are you trying to do? Do you want to die? Who else could it be but Su Yue? However, her face was now covered with frost. Who is she? How dare you? Who gives her the right to interrupt? Someone, chase her out. The sudden scene made many people in the hall frown. Some people were about to drive Su Yue out. Lin Han stood up and said with a smile, Everyone, this is my girlfriend Su Yue. She doesn't know anything, so I hope you don't mind. Then, he looked at Su Yue and said, Yue, come back. Su Yue bit her lip and looked at Yi Chen with a complicated expression. Yi Chen, when are you going to stop pretending? All the seniors here are from Shang Santian. Every one of them is more powerful than you. How can you be so impudent before them? At this point, she took a deep breath in. On account of my sister, I'll give you one last piece of advice. It's time to change your temper. Otherwise, you'll be killed. That's all I have to say. I hope you'll behave yourself. She turned around and returned to Lin Han's side. She did not give Yi Chen a chance to speak throughout the entire process. Not bad. Lin Han's girlfriend is not bad. She knows the big picture and knows her limit. She's a smart person. The people from Shang Santian in the hall nodded one after another after hearing Su Yue's reprimand. Lin Han's face was filled with smiles. However, his eyes were cold. Initially, he wanted to kill Yi Chen with Guan Shunyue's help. Who would have thought that Su Yue would interfere at the critical moment? Alright, what's with all this noise? Luo Shuiyao stopped the crowd and said to an old man guarding the door, Uncle Quan, ask the hotel staff to serve the dishes. Yes, young mistress. The old man nodded respectfully. When everyone regained their silence, Yi Chen said coldly, You don't even dare to accept the challenge. What a piece of trash. The hall fell into dead silence once again. Shock flashed across countless eyes. Is this kid crazy? Is he so eager to anger Guan Shunyue? Dai Tinglu and the rest were already dumbstruck. Mr. Yi, what are you trying to do? Niu Qingshan's expression changed again and again. He regretted letting Yi Chen participate in this negotiation. Lin Han and Du Ming looked at each other. They could see the anticipation in each other's eyes. Under everyone's gaze, Guan Shunyue's expression gradually turned grim. Just when everyone thought that he would not be able to hold it in. However, he suddenly laughed, as expected of a once-in-a-century genius in China. You're actually so belligerent. If you really want to spar with me, you can do it another day. Phew, as his voice fell, countless sighs of relief resounded in the venue. Even Niu Qingshan secretly heaved a sigh of relief. However, what surprised him was that his junior brother was so patient. It was not like him at all. At that moment, well-trained hotel attendants in uniform pushed the dining cart in and began to serve the dishes in an orderly manner. Not long after, the table was filled with nearly 100 dishes. Just when everyone was about to start eating, Xiao Yang suddenly said, Everyone. Everyone could not help but look at him. Even Luo Shuiyao, Lin Han, and the rest were no exception. Xiao Yang lifted his eyes and took a good look at everyone. His gaze lingered on Yi Chen and the rest for a few seconds before he said, Although the dishes are delicious and the wine is sweet, I think it's better to eat after we're done talking. Guan Shunyue was the first to agree. Young Master Xiao, that's exactly what I want. The rest nodded slightly, vaguely following Xiao Yang's lead. Xiao Yang smiled lightly. Then I, Xiao Yang, won't hide it anymore. This time, Shang Santian has entered the world, and all the aristocratic families need a place to settle down. I wonder what China says? His tone was like an order, unquestionable. Just as Niu Qingshan was about to speak, Guan Shunyue spoke first. Young Master Xiao, the Heavenly Palace has already made preparations. Our friends from Shang Santian have always lived in a paradise, so you definitely won't like the noisy and complicated downtown area. He glanced at everyone as he said that. He paused on Yi Chen for a moment before saying, Therefore, the Heavenly Palace has decided to give you the 3 provinces of Qiannan, Xiangnan, and Dianan, as well as Guangzhou and Hong Kong to settle down. As his voice fell, Niu Qingshan, who was in the crowd, was stunned at first. Subsequently, his expression changed abruptly as he looked at Yi Chen by instinct. It was because the place that Guan Shunyue mentioned. In reality, it was all Yi Chen's. Especially the 3 provinces of Tiannan, it was Yi Chen's hometown. Chapter 672. However, what surprised him this time was that Yi Chen acted as if he did not hear anything. Yi Chen acted like he did not hear anything. He even picked up a bottle of red wine on the table and poured himself half a glass. Xiao Yang nodded his head in satisfaction. Continue. Guan Shunyue continued, as everyone knows, the 3 provinces of Tiannan are remote. There are many mountains and dense forests, and there is abundant spiritual energy. Moreover, they are rich in all kinds of precious herbs. It's suitable for everyone to use. Smack. A stream of red wine that looked like blood splashed on his face. The wine drenched his face, and it was wet with a hint of wine fragrance. The entire place fell into dead silence. Everyone stared blankly at the empty red wine glass in Yi Chen's hand. Yi Chen wiped the rim of the glass with a tissue and turned to look at Guan Shangyue, who looked extremely grim. "I'm sorry. My hand shook." "Continue." Dai Tinglu and the rest, who were sitting next to him, turned pale. "His hand shook? Brother, how badly did you shake to be able to shake someone's face so cleverly?" Luo Shuiyao, Ouyang Qing, Su Yue, and the other girls covered their mouth. Their eyes were glazed over. Clearly, they were shocked by the scene before them. The corner of Niu Qingshan's lips twitched. "This brat is really a devil. He's lawless. He doesn't take his junior brother and the people of Shang Santian seriously." Just as he was about to stop the two from fighting, Guan Shangyue wiped the wine on his face. Guan Shangyue wiped the wine off his face and said with a smile instead of being angry, "It's fine." Maybe when I mentioned Brother Ye's hometown, Brother Ye's hand trembled because he was too homesick. I can understand that. "Not bad, this wine tastes good. Thank you, Brother Yi." He shook his head magnanimously and looked at Xiao Yang again. "Young Master Xiao, just as I said earlier, the three provinces of Tiannan, Guangzhou, and Hong Kong." At that moment, he saw Yi Chen pick up another bottle of red wine from the corner of his eye. He poured himself another glass. His eyelids twitched a few times, and he continued without batting an eyelid. "These places that I've mentioned are the most suitable for Shang Santian." Smack, another stream of red wine shot over like a huge wave. However, this time, it was blocked by a true energy wall that Guan Shangyue condensed. The entire hall was in an uproar. Even a fool would be able to tell. Yi Chen was targeting Guan Shangyue on purpose. The first time could still be explained as an accident. But twice in a row, Luo Shuiyao and Tang Jianfeng could not help but look at Yi Chen. They secretly frowned. "Yi Chen, oh Yi Chen, what exactly are you doing?" Guan Shangyue turned around and said with a fake smile while looking at Yi Chen, "Brother Yi, don't tell me your hands are shaking again?" "No." Under everyone's gaze, Yi Chen played with the wine glass in his hand and grinned at him, "Because I just don't like you." As soon as these words came out, the entire place became deathly silent. "I just don't like it." Yi Chen's words kept echoing in everyone's head. "Too arrogant. Too arrogant. Bastard." Xiao Yang, who was seated on the main seat, slammed the table and shouted with an extremely grim expression, "Mad Southern Yi, how dare you interrupt the conversation between Palace Master Guan and me time and time again? Who do you think you are?" Yi Chen squinted and said coldly, "This is between me and Guan Shangyue. It's not your place to interrupt." Xiao Yang was furious. "How dare you speak to me like that?" Who was he? A member of the Xiao clan of Shang Santian. The Xiao clan was ranked in the top 3 among all the ancient clans. Yi Chen was not the only one. Even Duan Feng and the rest, who were also from Shang Santian, did not dare to do this. "How dare you? You're simply looking down on Shang Santian. He's just a piece of trash from the secular world. Who gave him the courage? Kill him. Anyone who offends Shang Santian will be killed without mercy." The people from Shang Santian around were furious when they heard Yi Chen's last sentence. They looked at Yi Chen with killing intent. Luo Shuiyao secretly shook her head helplessly. Facing the furious situation, it was impossible for her to help Yi Chen even if she wanted to. No matter how powerful the Luo clan was, they dared not offend the few ancient clans present at the same time. Niu Qingshan's expression changed drastically. Just when he was about to speak to resolve the conflict, he heard Yi Chen shout all of a sudden, "I'm only here for Guan Shangyue today. If you don't want to die, mind your own business." Yi Chen looked straight at Guan Shangyue. "Palace Master Guan, shouldn't we settle the grudge between us today?" Initially, he planned to cause trouble for Guan Shangyue after the negotiation. Who would have thought that Guan Shangyue would want to give his territory to the people of Shang Santian? Tiannan was his hometown. The Murong clan of Ganzhou and the Spiritual Medicine Mountain were his subsidiary forces. The Tang family of Hong Kong were his loyal supporters. Guan Shanyue's actions were malicious. Ha! Guan Shanyue suddenly laughed out loud. His laughter shook the entire hall. Mad Southern Yi, I thought that you would endure until the end. I didn't expect you to act up so eagerly. Aren't you being too impatient? At this moment, his expression was extremely grim, and his gaze was cold. Especially the aura that he was exuding intentionally. It made Dai Tinglu and the rest tremble. I came here specially for you. There's no need to endure it. Yi Chen smirked coldly and said, on the contrary, you've been enduring it. Also, it's disgusting to be a bootlicker. Is it Shang Santian's father or mother? How could they kneel to such an extent? I have to say, I'm very impressed. Guan Shanyue's gaze was sinister as he said, I don't know where you got your courage from, but you actually dare to challenge me. Do you really think that I'm some **T Japanese sword saint, some **T fire emperor titan? The rest of the people also laughed. The likes of the Japanese sword sages were really not worth mentioning in their eyes. Cut the crap. If you have the guts, come out and fight me to the death. Yi Chen took a step out after saying that. He broke the window directly and stood above the Yang City International Hotel. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Guan Shanyue snorted. With a frightening killing intent, he shot out. This series of changes happened extremely quickly. By the time Miao Qingshan wanted to stop it, it was already too late. He sighed softly and hurriedly chased after Dai Tinglu and the others. Everyone, let's go out and have a look. Let's see how strong the so-called East Asian #1 really is. Du Ming, who was in the crowd, chuckled. His face was filled with schadenfreude. Then, he led the crowd out. Lin Han and Su Yue were at the back. Lin Han. Su Yue suddenly pulled Lin Han and said with a trembling voice, Why Yi Chen, is he Guan Shanyue's match? Lin Han turned around and stared at her. A cold smile appeared at the corner of his lips. Match? Let me tell you, Mad Southern Yi will definitely die tonight. There's no suspense. As for Guan Shanyue, he was also a little afraid. Although this person was a cultivator from the secular world, he had come into contact with Shang Santian decades ago. He had secretly colluded with the Shao clan and had obtained countless pointers and cultivation resources. Even he, Lin Han, had to use his full strength against Guan Shanyue. Su Yue's body trembled when she heard what he said. Although she hated Yi Chen, however, she panicked when she heard that Yi Chen would die.